What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Welcome to a Tuesday show. MLB lineup card live. My name's Terry McBride. For those that don't know, only a couple people, I'm sure, here hanging out for the beginning of the show. Getting things rolling a couple minutes late. Apologies about that. Just had to grab a couple lineups and get them updated up on the website. First game came in. The Rangers and the Yanks lineups are in. No Ben Rice for the Yankees. Just a note to throw out there. We'll talk about that as we get to it. Still a loaded-looking lineup, but that's obviously a big dip in potential quality. Good opponent on the mound for the Yanks, too. Jacob deGrom. Nothing to sneeze at there. Interesting game there in the Bronx. That's our first one up. We'll get into that one. Cujo's here. Andy's here. Beyond the Rabbit Hole. House 0252. What's going on, everybody? Good to see y'all. Couple quick congrats. We had... solid little win in a DraftKings something or another contest. Not sure if it was a single entry or a smaller multi-entry, but our guy Lone Wolf took down first place, won himself $1,000 on looks like a Davis Martin and Travis McDonald stack. McDonald 7.6% owned on that slate. Put up a near 32 point score on DraftKings. Didn't really see that coming, but we did talk about how that was a potential asset anyway for lineup building. Looks like it was a Dodgers-Yankees up top. I see a J.P. Crawford share in there at shortstop, and then the lineup cuts off. But congrats to Lone Wolf. We had another one popped in. A little solid casher was also dropped into the Discord. Congrats on that one. And then congrats our little contest yesterday. Travis Wyndham and Larry C. both won themselves a free week. So, guys, you know where to find me. Just hit me up in Discord, whatever. Send me a note on Twitter or something like that, and I'll get you set up for your free weeks. But Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki going deep to pay off home run picks there. I also happen to pick off Luke Raley for mine, so I don't know if maybe that's more a tie, but we'll obviously award some free weeks. It's the fun of it. We'll do that again a couple times, maybe a couple times a week or at least once a week going forward. Thought that was a little bit fun. Generated some comments in the below video comment windows down there. If you get a chance, drop a note in there. Hey, good job, terrible job, you're stupid, you're smart, whatever. Congrats, I won this, I lost this because of you. Whatever it is, it all feeds the algorithm. Good, bad, and indifferent. Give me something to hit the thumbs up on, respond to in there. If you got any questions, feel free to drop them in there. After the shows. Not the best spot to do that. The free Discord's also linked in the description down there. That's a much better spot because I'm actually in there through the evenings, especially as I'm updating NBA and everything still. So we're always talking shop in there. And if you got a good heater of the lineup, let us know. We can cheer you on. Anyway, let's dive into this slate. Got a little bit of a quorum here. A bunch of people starting the show out. We'll see how the audience goes. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel when you get a chance. Definitely also helps feed the algorithm. Interesting slate. We've got some expensive pitching up top and pretty high peak with that handful of starters. And then kind of an absent middle. I think Bryce Elder is as decent as he's been, pitching in a decent pitcher's park as well, or a great pitcher's park. A little overpriced on FanDuel. 85 on DraftKings is fine. But then after him, you're kind of taking your chances with a lot of these spots and a lot of these guys. There are some pitchers of varying quality that are definitely guys you can either get away with or in some cases even rely on in a good spot. I don't fully trust basically the entire bottom half or bottom 2/3 here. So I do feel like it's a slate where there's just kind of an absent middle, but it's also priced that way. All these guys basically bargain bin type prices. And again, some talent, some usable pieces there. Shouldn't have moved us off of that. We'll come back to the pitching board in a moment. If you're looking for the Mets and Rockies game, it was snowed out. Apparently, they're expecting like 9 inches of snow on May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody in Colorado. So that's fun. But we lose that game. We're dealing with a 9-game slate on both sites. Interesting one to start us off. Rangers and the Yankees both showing healthy totals in Yankee Stadium on a nice warm day. A little bit of a breeze in the New York area. 9-run total, one of our better spots of the day. One of 2 games that are totaled at even 9. We don't have a double-digit total on the board. We have one team over 5. It's the Dodgers. So the Yanks pulling a 4.72, even with Jacob deGrom on the mound, even with that probably comes down maybe slightly But probably, I don't think we're going down as far as even 4.5 with no Ben Rice in the lineup. Maybe in the upper 4.6s after everything updates. But DeGrom, obviously, a pitcher that can blaze a trail through this Yankees lineup, find his upside for strikeouts if things are going right. He is giving up a little bit of premium contact. That definitely feeds the beast here for the Yankees side of things. And then going the other way, the Rangers, playable. Going up against Elmer Rodriguez. This is a dual Erod slate. Be aware of that. Elmer Rodriguez for the Yankees, making his second start. He might or might not get one this coming weekend against the Brewers, and then it's probably back to the minors. Depends on whether Carlos Rodon makes one more rehab start or two more rehab starts for that. But he is on the bump tonight. He is a very talented pitcher. Young kid, just getting his feet on the ground in the major leagues. A lot of success for strikeouts through the minor leagues. A lot of success for limiting runs. 70-something overall ranking in the Baseball America pipeline. One of the top Yankees prospects overall. Don't love the spot, but playable. I actually have him going in the Dynasty League this week, kind of hoping for both starts and just play some innings pitched. That's a category for us. I think he's playable in this spot for some strikeout upside. I don't love that they're pulling a 4.37 in total against, and they are showing some power upside against. At best, I think Elmer's in kind of a 1-to-1 hedge situation where you're going to want some Rangers coming back the other way if you get over the top with shares of him. Any given lineup, you're fine. Guardians against the Royals, kind of a low total in that one. Both teams below 4.388 on the Guardian side, 3.69 coming back for the Royals. That one's Gav Williams against Stephen Kolek. Kolek making his first start of the year. I did make 4 starts in AAA. Didn't complete the 5th inning. Pitched into the 5th in 2 of those. Handful of strikeouts, kind of is who he is spot. Kolek was decent last year for limiting runs, but not a big-time strikeout pitcher. Not a great option on the mound, but a playable one, especially going up against that Guardians team that not the best run creation engine in the world. Only a couple real threatening hitters. Gav Williams, kind of an easy go-to option, one of the pricier pitchers, a lot of strikeout upside. Going up against a tough Royals lineup, though, is up and down as they can be. There are a number of very good hitters that we like a lot, and when they're going right, they are pretty low strikeouts. So not the best spot in the world for Gav, but he's been pitching really well. He's been working deep into games, finding his Ks, so you got to like the upside. This one is downright interesting. Cincinnati, Chicago. The conditions in Wrigley aren't the same tonight. The wind's kind of blowing in across the field from right to left at a light like 7 miles an hour. It's a lot cooler, though. I think it's going to be in the 50s tonight. 3.59 implied total on the red side going up against Jameson Taillon, who's a middle-of-the-road type starter, entirely gettable, but also capable of shutting down a team like that, finding a handful of strikeouts on the right day. Going the other direction, 4.50 implied total for the Cubs against Andrew Abbott, who has not been great through most of his starts this season. There's just a bunch of upside bats in that Cubs lineup that we like anyway. So I think that's easy to target. It kind of comes through in the projections. Cubbies land in the upper portion of the board, but the Reds are also creeping their way up there. They're showing a lot of quality against Taillon here, and I think they might be downright sneaky. They were also showing a bunch of power upside in the Fangraphs game sims that kind of jibes with exactly what we're seeing on the board here. JJ Bleday has been on absolute fire. Elliot De La Cruz is a superstar. Sal Stewart has been really good. That's a good lineup, and if they're going to be a little contrarian for that total with what they're showing against a gettable righty, I kind of like that spot. So we're kind of going against Vegas there. We'll talk it through as we get to that game, but real interesting game in Chicago today. The Brewers and the Cardinals. But by the way, there is some weather. I had this up before. I meant to leave it and I closed it by accident. There's weather in the this game, the Brewers-Cardinals game. That's really the only one. Roth now has it red, actually. So that's pretty concerning. 85% chance of probability. Woo! 100% chance of probability, 85% chance of precipitation. He's got it red now, increasingly thinking this one may get an early postponement, but I won't fully rule out them managing to wait it out and playing later tonight is his read. Which is kind of a shame because the Brewers are also looking kind of interesting. 3.77 total, not the best. They're going up against Andre Belanti, who can limit runs, can definitely check power with his ability to keep the ball down, but not a special pitcher in any way. I forgot to go through it because we only had the projected lineups early yesterday. But they got Jackson Chourio back and they got Andrew Vaughn back yesterday. Two major upgrades for that Brewers team that, as we've talked through the beginning of the year, has kind of lacked power, lacked those big thumper bats. Those are two guys that can definitely fill that role. Chourio does a little bit of everything. So really interesting lineup from top to bottom for the Brewers going up against a gettable starter. If that one plays, I'm interested there. A little bit of friskiness from the Cardinals. They keep having little outbursts, winning some ball games. Got some interesting players at the very least. We know and love Jordan Walker around here. J.J. Weatherholt's been tremendous. Some interesting bats going up against Brandon Sproat, who has been also fairly gettable over his last handful of starts. A couple good ones in there, but really 6 2/3 against Toronto was his best start, 1 run. Otherwise, some runs around the edges or some light opponents in short outings. So not fully confident in Sproat. I do think those are playable, but not ideal options if that game plays on the mound as well, with both teams coming in sub 4. So kind of a 4 cornersy spot in that one if it plays. Dodgers have Ohtani on the mound. He's gone exactly 6 in each of his starts. Strikeouts have come back somewhat, 10, 7, and 9 in the last 3 outings. So we're seeing the uptick in strikeouts again that we were looking for. They were talking about him on Central this morning about how he's working around the edges a little bit more, maybe nibbling a little bit more, but obviously has been mostly tremendous. It's a great go-to option against an Astros teams that have been kind of up and down. 3.44 implied total on their side kind of speaks for itself. And then the Dodgers, the only team above a 5 run and well above it at 5.17, going up against Peter Lambert, making his return from the injured list. Think we can fire away with Dodgers bats there pretty easily. We've got Fede on the mound for the Braves going up against... What am I saying? Fede on the mound for the White Sox. That's why, wait a minute, Braves. Fede on the mound for the White Sox going up against the Angels. The Angels are showing a big power bump. 4 guys, I believe, above the magic number. One of those guys is the home run pick of the day, so stick around to hear about that one. Kind of even up game Vegas-wise, though. I mean, no real preference between the two teams. They're both looking compelling. I like that as a game stack with both of those hanging in the mid-4s. It's Eric Fede. It's Sammy Aldieri going for the Angels. So we've got Sam Antonacci on one side, Sam Aldieri fighting for the top Italian Sam in the major leagues. 2 interesting bat on the White Sox side of things, mixes in with their 2 major upside pieces, as well as a growing lineup. Chase Meadroth is interesting in that lineup. There are pieces and parts. They added Randall Grichuk to that team, and he's showing a little bit of potentially sneaky power upside if he's in the game against a left-handed pitcher. Aldieri has been bad in his limited action in the show. Kind of bumpy numbers through the minors, so not really a pitcher I want. Definitely a guy I'm looking to target. Now Bryce Elder on the mound for the Braves and George Kirby on the mound for the Mariners. Kirb's shown plenty of upside. He's been a little bit up and down to start his season, but we know he's excellent. It's great pitcher's park. We talked about that spot last night. Didn't quite get there with Logan Gilbert, but I think we come right back to it with George Kirby here and take a shot again. Sub 4 implied total again for the Braves. No Ronald Acuna. Elder has been pitching, I think, a little bit above his head, but he's been undeniably good. I think you can get to him, but the Mariners are showing a 4.24 implied total. A little bit more upside for them on the board here. The Pirates and the Diamondbacks coming down the stretch on the night. It's Bubba Chandler. It's Erod, the older Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez. Playable, maybe light playability on either one of those guys. You'd be targeting just the heavy strikeout nature of the Pirates. Maybe feeds Erod a couple additional Ks, and his ledger's not bad this year. He's capable of breaking off good starts here and there. So it's not off the board at a 4.26 implied total, but there's plenty of quality for the Pirates. One thing that Erod could do maybe is check down O'Neal Cruz and Brandon Lau a little bit just for the lefty of it. So we're always at least somewhat interested in capable lefties against that Pirate squad, but Vegas prefers the bats, and I think I do too. Bubba Chandler is pushing a 4.83 implied toward the Diamondbacks, and that is an overperforming Diamondbacks lineup. That's another spot I don't fully agree. They get a little bump from a good ballpark for hitting. Bubba, not in peak form, certainly, but a kid who can absolutely bring it on the mound. So at least he's on the board, and the Diamondbacks are kind of mid-board at best in terms of their offense, their upside as a stack. It's a 3-man lineup up top, and then it's a bunch of guys that overperform. Padres and the Giants down the bottom, rounding things out. It's Logan Webb against Walker Buehler. Logan Webb kind of underperformed to start the season, but he's been working deep into games. 3 of the last 5, he's completed 7 innings. The other 2, he completed 6. He only went 1 short start. It was 5 innings in the debut for the season against the Yanks. Gave up 6 earned in that start. Otherwise, a handful of runs that are still a little bit uncharacteristic in most of his outings. Last time out at Philly, that light-scoring Phillies team, only 1 earned run over 7, struck out 6. The 1 earned run came on a solo home run, kind of like what happened to Jansen Junk yesterday. If you played that early slate, we called that out during the show. Hopefully you got to that. I had him for a nice night on the night that Tarek Skubal died for the Dynasty team. Anyway, Pods and Giants. The Pods, 359 implied total against Webb. Giants not pulling much with that lousy lineup that's been just so shaky to start the season. Just under a 4-run total. They're going up against the corpse of Walker Buehler, though. It could be a good day to be a Giants hitter. Buehler ranks right there. 6,000 on DraftKings, inoffensively priced. He's at least in the mix for shares. He's been okay in some of his outings this year. He's gotten through 6 in one of his starts, 6 shutout innings against Colorado, but we know what that opponent is. I don't love the Walker Buehler spot, even though the Giants are struggling. It would really be because the Giants are struggling. Decent pitcher's park. Not a ton of additional upside beyond the numbers that you see there on Walker Buehler. There's maybe a little bit more upside if Andrew Abbott puts it together and manages to defy the Vegas total there. And again, it's not a crazy hitter's park tonight in Chicago out at Wrigley. Andre Palante at 7,000. Capable of getting through 6 clean innings against that Brewers team. Good at keeping the ball in the yard. That's a playable piece as an SP2 on DraftKings. I think he's a little bit light on FanDuel. 77, not exactly a comfortable price. If you just knock it off and put it at the Andrew Abbott price, I'd be probably a little bit more interested. But I do think he's playable. FanDuel, the way that the pricing has been this year, though, with hitters, we haven't really needed to go to the bargain bin guys all that often. You can put together outrageously good lineups if you do, but in a lot of cases, that hasn't been completely necessary. Eric Fede against the Angels. I'm leaning Angels, but 6,200 on DraftKings. It's at worst a throwable dart. There's really no daylight between Fede here for 62. And, even here, that's 3 points, 3.5. And there's no guarantee on either of the Erods. There's no guarantee on Tyon. And in fact, I'm kind of looking at Cincinnati, as we're going to see. Chandler against Arizona. There's no daylight between those projections. So again, anybody through here. We just lack a healthy middle on this slate. So Fede on DK, sure, but on FanDuel, it seems unnecessary at 78. That's another price where it's not cheap enough that I can completely load up, not expensive enough where it makes sense with lower and back combinations. Just kind of falls through the cracks, and there's not a lot of quality. Lambert Hardno against the Dodgers, and Aldieri showing a lot of downside against the White Sox. So I would maybe lop these two guys off, especially at Lambert's pricing. I don't really think that works from the bottom, but I would leave this handful of guys in the mix. Kolek is definitely in the mix. Maybe a tiny sliver of additional upside against the Guardians, but not much. Not a high ceiling pitcher, low strikeout guy. Sproat could find some Ks. Those Cardinals can give you some strikeout upside through the bottom 6 hitters in that lineup, as we've looked at. 67, I do think there's a little bit of ceiling maybe on Brandon Sproat, but he's also been kind of up and down. Young kid, not a ton of experience, needs to put the pieces together. He's facing a lineup full of some guys that have a little bit more experience than that, and some guys who are right around the same experience level. Kind of both-sided situation there. Chandler, I've talked enough about. Tyon, I've talked enough about. Old Erod with a little bit of strikeout potential coming from Pittsburgh. The lefty-lefty thing maybe works in his favor. But we've seen Erod just kind of, casually working his way through starts without spiking a lot of upside. Pitching 6 innings of decently, clean baseball, but 4 or 5 strikeouts along the way. Not major potential for fantasy scoring, but on a day like today, maybe that flies, especially as an SP2 at 74. Probably gets a little popular, though, as well for the downside. Elmer, total wild card. 6,400 is uniquely cheap on FanDuel with playability. The kid's got a ton of talent. He's got swing and miss stuff. Just a matter of whether it translates fully to the show and whether it translates on a good night for bats in New York. So I don't fully endorse the spot, but I think the projection's correct. I think the price is wrong, or at least wrong relative to everybody down through here. On DraftKings, he's just another SP2. I don't think there's anything special at the 7,500, but I think he's equally playable to Erod, to old Erod, Jameson Tyon, Bubba Chandler, and so on. He only went 4 in the most recent outing, but got himself into a little bit of a jam. I do think that that's in the cards again. He goes 4 and change. He's working in the 5th inning, and he puts 2 guys on base. Boone's going to hook him. So be aware of that with Elmer. It might be a little bit of a shallow ceiling and just more around like for the money you can maybe get to the projection today. just because of the potential for a shorter start than most of the other guys on the board, even on a good day. So be aware of that with Elmer. Everybody else, their work either this year or over the last couple of years kind of speaking for itself. 10-1, I continue to think is aggressive for Bryce Elder. FanDuel with just some reactionary pricing again. 85 on DK, though, completely works. That gives you at least a middle type option there. And Logan Webb being cheap at 87, another middle-ish kind of an option. For today, those are your middle guys. You could call these two and then these guys in the sevens up there as your middle today. But I don't really see pricing in the upper mid eights to actually be true middle on DK. Gavin Williams is totally worth 93. Significant upside on either one of these sites. 10-8 on FanDuel's aggressive against the low strikeout Royals team when they're going right. But I'm willing to pay it. And there's some separation between him and these guys. But Ohtani's shown some downside, and he's more expensive. Kirby's shown some downside in a dangerous spot against a still very good Braves team. 97,900. I do like the price. If I'm comparing him and Gav, that's close. There's no guarantee there. So if you get less ownership for the 10-8 on Gavin Williams, does become interesting and at worst equal, I think, to Ohtani, Kirby, and DeGrom, even though he's projected slightly lighter. DeGrom against the Yanks, fire away, 10-5, 9-7, fairly priced. Major strikeout upside. Yankees can swing and miss. No Ben Rice in the lineup. Still no Giancarlo Stanton, so slightly diminished. Still star-laden and still a near 5-run total, but DeGrom, obvious upside. Best pitcher of his generation when healthy. And Ohtani at 11, 10-7. The Astros don't exactly push strikeout in your direction. That would be my main concern. As I mentioned in the last 3 starts, the K's have kind of come back for him a little bit. But if he dips somewhat, if it's only a 5 strikeout day for Ohtani, and if he goes 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, that's not great at 11,000, 10-7. It's entirely playable. It could still win the slate, no doubt about it. But it's not must-have, knock everybody else off the podium. So just a little bit of a price concern there against what's still a good Astros lineup, especially when it comes to limiting Ks. Jaws is on, by the way. I think it's Stars, started on Friday with the beginning of May, running Jaws 1, 2, and 3, followed by Deep Blue Sea. Fantastic big dumb shark movie. I'm a sucker for Deep Blue Sea. Jaws, just one of the best movies, as you guys have heard me talk about probably every summer for the last 5 years. My favorite movie, just one of the best movies of all time. XX Cub says too many walks for Erod. Which one? Could be a bad story for either one of them. WDN asking pay up for Shohei or fade and go Tyon and get some bats. I don't love the Tyon thing. I think you could easily dance around Shohei, but I'm not necessarily targeting Tyon. He's been effective. He can break off very good starts. We've seen upside stretches from Jameson Tyon before, but I am seeing a little bit of power, a little bit of quality on the red side of that. I'll pop it up here. Clint Wood says, I'll always remember the day that I delivered the news to Terry about Scooble, proof that I couldn't be a doctor. Your bedside manner was terrific, buddy. You consoled me. It was well done. Cattell or Jazz Chisholm on FanDuel? Probably Jazz. Jazzy's heating up. I think he's in this first game here. So price down on both sites still, 2,800. Second base and third base is nice. The ability to move him around the board a little bit. It's been significantly better than this over the last 2 weeks or so. All 3 of the home runs have come in that stretch. It's a player that we see year after year struggle a bit while it's cold. And once the temperatures get to, decent spring weather, he becomes fine again. He's on the record as saying, I just don't like playing in the cold. I don't know what it is necessarily. He's a kid from the Bahamas. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe not. But it's just, who knows why, but it does happen every year. There's nothing we can quantify. There's nothing that's predictable about that, but he is coming out of it. And this is the same time that he comes out of it every year. So fairly confident in Jazz. The other one was Cattell. That is this game. I have no issues with Cattell. He's underperforming his talent levels right now. 283 WOBA, but a 359 xWOBA has been tremendous for several years in a row. I would say both guys going at peak form. Jazz is probably the slightly better fantasy player, but Cattell's probably the better overall major league hitter if that makes sense. Jazz a little bit less than as a hitter, more than probably as a power bat, steals more bases, fills more categories, and is in the much, much higher end lineup playing in Yankee Stadium. Diamondbacks in a good hitter's park here, but it's a much shorter lineup. Marte gets support from Perdomo, Carroll up at the top, and then we get a lot of guys overperforming. Like Lourdes Gurriel kind of underperforming so far. Ildemaro Vargas, the best 108 plate appearances that he'll ever have, and you're paying a massive tax for him. Not that that matters necessarily to your question, but like the support that these guys provide, just turning the lineup over multiple times to get him to the plate those additional 1-2 times. Jazz might see 2 more plate appearances than Ketel Marte, and that would decide it on its own. So I would lean Jazz somewhat. Jazz is obviously facing Jacob deGrom. That's a big ding. Bubba Chandler can bring it, but he's no Jake deGrom, at least not yet. So there is a little bit of back and forth there, but I would probably lean still a little bit toward Jazzy. And again, with deGrom, going back to the first game, 13.2% barrel rate allowed so far. Over the threshold by a lot in barrels, over by 0.8 in hard hits, over by 1.5 miles of exit velocity on average as well so far. So a lot of premium contact downside for Jacob deGrom that feeds the power numbers for the Yanks a little bit. In seasons past, he's given up similar contact, similar home run rates, and still been Jacob deGrom. It doesn't hurt him because so few guys are typically on base when the home runs happen, but there is that downside for deGrom. So I think that also, may be a reason to go to Jazzy. Yanks put up 12 runs yesterday. Yeah, look, I mean, they're just one of the most loaded teams in the league. It's indisputable. Yankees haters, Yankees fans, everybody. You have to at least acknowledge the quality of the players that are in this lineup on a daily basis. It's just a 9-man group that everybody can contribute and keep things churning. So there's a reason the Yanks, the Dodgers, the big market teams typically float to the top of the stacks board, top of the Vegas totals, even against the Jacob deGrom. Getting into this one a little bit more, though. Good way to start us off with that question. Really appreciate it. Drop questions in as we talk, guys. Appreciate it. Greg Biancone calls out wind really kicking up here in New York City. Yeah, it is a windy day in the Bronx. Which way is it going across the field? Out to left. 17-mile-an-hour breeze out to left. So, again, that is another major factor in potentially feeding some home run upside. Jazz typically are going to be looking to right field with the lefty bat, but some significant guys who can target that the left field seats. So definite upside for power, if nothing else, on the Yankee side of things. It could be a day where you see 4 or 5 runs come on, 2 big knocks, but then that's it, kind of flat. Could also be a day where once deGrom's gone, they explode against this Texas bullpen. We've seen the Yankees do that quite a few times. So this Erod, Elmer, as Cub said, the other Erod, I guess, is our Erod, which, yeah, I can get behind. But this is my Erod now. I like this kid. I like his makeup. I like the stuff. It's worked through the minor leagues. 4 innings in the first start. This was against these Rangers last week. Went 4, faced 20 hitters, 2 earned runs on 4 hits, struck out 3, but walked 4. If he wrangles the control a little bit in his second start, maybe not, who knows, nerves, etc. You get that under control a little bit, and there's plenty of upside. The kid was striking out 25.6 in AAA this year, 9% walk rate. Last year in the minors, he struck out 29% against the 9% walk rate, 30% against an 8.2 in AA in advanced ball. The year before, 27.2 against 11.5. So walks are part of the game here, but it should come with fairly significant strikeout upside. And we know how those pitchers can succeed for DFS. This is a Texas team that comes in with a collective 25.2% strikeout rate so far this year for this group of hitters. It was a little lower last year at 22.3, 23.3 the year before, but those are still, significant enough targets. So I do think the kid could find it a little bit. Manages to get us through 5 innings, then we're playing with house money. If we get into a 6th, we probably are looking at 5. So I do think on FanDuel, the quality start, maybe not in the cards, but he's at 6,400. So he doesn't really need it, especially by comparison to the biggest names of the day, the guys you're going to mostly be going toward. He's got the chance to compete for 4,000 less than some of those guys on the salary board. That buys you Aaron Judge. That buys you one of the best hitters in the game. So a lot of reason to at least consider some Elmer Rodriguez on the mound on FanDuel. DraftKings at 75. Again, I don't think that price is special as it compares to the Tyons, the other guys of the world. So he's just another SP2 on your DK board. He's a piece of value on FanDuel, kind of uniquely on his own. Not necessarily guaranteed to work by any stretch could give us another just 4-inning day with a handful of walks and might amount to more runs. These Rangers do have some deadly good power. Jock Peterson from the left side, Corey Seager from the left side. They're loaded up with some lefties up top with Evan Carter leading off today. Going down the lineup, though, it's Jake Berger is really good, but Ezekiel Duran is kind of a mix and matchy guy. Alejandro Osuna, Danny Jansen can turn on one in any ballpark. Maybe, gets a little bit of a wind-assisted home run for Danny Jansen from late in the lineup. McCutch, maybe he exploits the walks. He, once upon a time, was one of the best in baseball at doing that. So maybe you see McCutch on base a couple times, but he's been on base at a 250 clip over 48 plate appearances this year, looking mostly retired. This is not a great lineup on the other side. 437 implied total, though. You can go to it a little. Target the downside of the kid, target the walks, target the inexperience. I think if you're doing that, Corey Seager is an absolute must-have in almost every Rangers stack that you build. I would say that Jock Peterson and Jake Berger, conflated those two names, Jock and Jake down lineup, two major sources of power that you want both those guys in most of the Rangers stacks you build. You can get into a little bit of a back and forth trading them off and just using, Evan Carter share in the outfield, getting Josh Young into there. There's some flexibility in the build between the top 6 hitters, and you've got loose playability at least on Danny Jansen for cheap. So there are ways to put it together on DK. It's probably a shorter stack on FanDuel. Maybe it's a better 3-man on FanDuel where you're just taking the 3 power bats, or you're just mixing in either Evan Carter or Josh Young off the top with the 3 power bats on FanDuel. I like it better as a DK stack, and they get kind of cheap through the middle here with some of those guys. Osuna yet to barrel a ball, kind of light, over 22 plate appearances. Last season, 176 pretty bad plate appearances, 212, 313, 278. Jansen hit 14 home runs last year. You did see 13 home runs and a 333 on base Adam McCutchen against that 12% walk rate last year. But that's so far, again, been cut in half with the strikeouts spiking, but it's only 48 plate appearances. You got to give the old man a minute to find his talent. But those guys are light. Berger's been crushing baseballs. Nearly an 11% barrel, 47.8% hard hit. 6 home runs, but a lot of inconsistency, a lot of zeros. That's why he's 3,300, 2,800. Slashing 216, 248, 388 is problematic. 279 WOBA with a 274 xWOBA. So you're really just home run hunting right now with Jake Berger. But he's got more than enough ability to hit that home run today in Yankee Stadium, especially with the wind helping him out to left field. Duran's just cheap. It's been the good version of Ezekiel Duran, over 77 plate appearances. It's a solid slash line, 111 WRC plus so far. But the up and down nature of the player can't be reflected better than the 336 WOBA against a 302X. Peterson really hasn't found it this year. He's got 2 home runs on the board, 48.3% hard hits, but the barrels have completely abandoned him. He was down hard last year, 9 home runs and 306 plate appearances. Basically, all of those came against right-handed pitching. What he's paid to do is hit home runs in the platoon situation. He's just gotten cheap for DFS, 8.87 down from where he used to be. He would have been over 10 in this situation as recently as the middle of last year, but pretty hard hit over the last couple seasons. Seager's a superstar. 6 home runs on the board, a pretty poor slash line so far, 99 WRC plus, but a 351 xWOBA lurking under the 318 actual. Super playable. Carter's got talent, mostly around the hit tool right now. 170, 288, 300 doesn't exactly earn you the leadoff spot. I think he's just up there for the lefty bat, but playable. All right, why don't you go lie down? On the Yanks side, as mentioned a couple times, no Ben Rice. But that elevates a very affordable Jason Dominguez in the cleanup role. Switch hitter with a little bit of pop in the bat, 2,400 on FanDuel. Definitely makes the Yankees much more affordable. 33 does the same thing on DraftKings. Trent Grisham is still very cheap on both sites as well. 5 home runs on the board, started to come out of the shell, at least a little bit around the power. And he's been finding the hard hits, finding the barrels all season. Kind of right in line with where he's been over the last couple of years in terms of the barrel rate. The hard hits have actually come up. He just hasn't found success for the contact that he's making in terms of where the ball lands on the field. But the things that he can control, he's done quite well with. So I expect a major surge going forward from Grisham. The xWOBA at 371 kind of supports that under a 315 actual. Fire away while he's still cheap. His price is going to go up pretty quickly. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. Don't overthink it. 14 home runs, I believe tied for the league lead or in the league lead. Where's Murakami at? Either way, it's Aaron Judge. Cody Bellinger surging 4,900, 3,400, 5 home runs, 4 steals, looking like Cody Bellinger in there, even all the way down to the just kind of medium contact that he always makes. But Yankee Stadium can definitely help him with the home run upside going out to right field. Love Cody Bellinger, just a good bat, good player overall. 34 is fair price. Outfield and first base eligibility on FanDuel is nice because you don't have to occupy all of your outfield spots if you're stacking up the top 4 Yankees. That works really, really well. Jazz, we talked about at the very top of the show. 3 home runs all came in the last few weeks. He's hitting something 270, mid threes on base over the last couple of weeks. So again, just starting to find it for the season and really get it going. And we know he's a 30-30 and beyond type talent once the machine starts going. So love Jazz. At any price, I absolutely love the second base, third base flexibility on FanDuel. Just, again, helps with the building with the Yankees, and he's still only 28 over there. He's 44 on DraftKings, which is still light but more appropriate. Goldie getting the shot here against the righty with no Ben Rice. I don't love that situation for him. He's been much, much better against left-handed pitching over the last couple of years, but still a guy who might knock a single or two, score a couple runs. So part of the stack for sure, but not a priority bat. He's just cheap in the middle of the lineup, playable piece, but not a guy to build around necessarily. Austin Wells, you're just looking for one good cheap catcher piece of contact. Hit 3 home runs so far this season. Lefty bat can get one out of Yankee Stadium against anybody. Ryan McMahon, similar thing. 2 home runs. He's starting to heat up a little bit. 10.9% barrel, 52.7% hard hit. He's going to start paying that off at some point. So like riding the upside there at third base, 24 on either side. Very, very cheap. And then there's like Caballero, can get on base, can score you a run. He's hit 4 home runs, stolen 13 bases. It's been interesting. 103 WRC plus. He's not a major bat, and the home run pace is going to cool. He's not going to hit 35 home runs this year. But that's a good player who fits in at a key position on DraftKings for a cheap price. 4 positions on FanDuel. Take advantage. He is another guy that helps with just putting the Yankees together in different interesting configurations. And you can use mostly the same players with a guy like that and do something like, double up shorts, have him at shortstop and then take another shortstop in utility and load up your outfield. There's just different ways that you can take a guy like him and double a position that won't be the most common build, go to the 2 most commonly used teams, and still get to a different configuration of players than the most common build. So it's a way through the chalk when you can move guys around a little bit and find more unique combinations. Yankees, DeGrom, Rangers, Elmer on DraftKings, Elmer on FanDuel. Everything's playable, though. WDN asking Jock or Evan Carter. Carter for the correlated scoring, Jock for the big payoff. I can't ignore Jock Peterson's history with that big lefty thunder in Yankee Stadium, much as it's been missing for the last year plus. One good swing still in there. I love the idea of Jason Dominguez for cheaper, though. He's getting that back going a little bit, I think. And we've seen quality from him in the show. It's never really a problem with him at the plate. His outfield play is atrocious defensively, and they just have blockers for him all over the place. Most other organizations, Jason Dominguez has been in the league for the last 2 years. So he's also been hurt over the last couple of years. But anyway, kind of a pitching favored matchup, at least on the Gavin Williams side here. 93, 10, 8, one of the better projected pitchers, around 30 FanDuel points, right around 15 on DraftKings. Working deep into ball games, 43 and a third over his 7 starts this year, and been finding the strikeout. Been one of the better strikeout arms in baseball so far this season. 9 Ks over 7 2/3 against the Rays his last time out. Kept them off the board except for 1 unearned run on 5 hits. Was tremendous. Had a bumpy day the start before that. That was against the Blue Jays. Only struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 2 home runs, 6 earned on 7 hits. Still went 6 in that game. The start before that, 11 Ks over 7 innings against the Orioles. 2 double-digit strikeout games a 9 strikeout game, an 8 strikeout game. It all amounts to 31% over his first 7 starts. It comes with an 11% walk rate, something to be aware of there, but typically capable of punching his way out of trouble. 2.70 ERA, a 3.23 xFIP, 3.40 Sierra. He's just looking tremendous. Kid came up as one of the top pitchers, top pitching prospects in baseball. Had been injured a little bit to start his career, so just kind of got off to a maybe not a rocket of a start. But last year was good, 24.6% strikeout rate over 31 starts, 167 and 2/3, pitched with a 3.06 ERA, but a 4.08 xFIP, 4.35 Sierra. Had a little bit of an issue with premium contact, probably lucky to be at a 3.27% home run rate overall. That's kind of stuck with him so far this year. He's cut the launch angle down a little bit further, and that low launch angle is a little bit of a part of keeping the home runs below 4%. But don't be surprised if he gives up a long ball to a Sal, a Bobby Witt, certainly a Vinny or a Jack Caglianone. There is power upside in this Royals lineup. You've got 4 guys in the lineup, the projected version here in the double digits for barrel rate so far. They're the 4 guys that we've seen in that territory in years past. Sal struggling to get there right now, but we know that he's lived in that territory in recent memory. So plenty of upside on the Royals side if Gav comes out without his best stuff, if he makes a couple additional mistakes, has guys on base via the walk when he gives up the big piece of contact. There is visible downside, or at least visible reason to argue for some Royal stacks across a large portfolio of lineups. But Gavin Williams is the talking point. He's the go-to. 10-8 fair on FanDuel for the strikeout upside. 9-3, a lot more affordable on DraftKings. Kolek at 67. 75 on FanDuel. I don't know what we're going to get here. Didn't complete 5 in any of the rehab starts. Made 4 rehab starts, pitched into the 5th twice. 4 and change, 3 and change in the other ones. 4 strikeouts in each of the last 3 against AAA hitting. Last season, he pitched at just a 16.7% strikeout rate. Had a 3.51 ERA, 4.16 xFIP, 4.39 Sierra. I think the player note about him says something like, pitched really well last year, blah, blah, blah. Did he? For fantasy purposes? Did he? I'm not entirely sure. Going up against a gettable enough Guardians team, I guess, could support some upside, but this is not a team that strikes out a lot. Outside of like Kyle Manzardo and maybe Rhys Hoskins in the middle, and Hoskins will do damage with the walks. He'll do damage with the power upside that Kyle Manzardo also brings to bear. I think maybe people might be misled into a cheap Stephen Kolek here. At 75 on FanDuel, it's a pretty hard no, because I don't think we're getting a quality start. At 67 on DraftKings, he's in the bargain bin. You can dust him off a few times, put him in your little bag of purchases there, but it's not great. He was good at limiting home runs, kept launch angle down, didn't exactly induce weak and medium contact, but on that kind of a launch, that kind of a barrel, it doesn't really matter. But the Guardians also are loaded with guys that can exploit that with just hard hit balls through the infield. That might be what they're better at. So I don't see it for Stephen Kolek. Doesn't exactly lead us to Guardians, though. Nobody above 5.90 on the way to 10 in the home run column. That's Jose Ramirez, their superstar. He could definitely hit one. He can hit one against anybody. But Kolek is cutting into the power upside a little bit. So now we're just chasing base hits, sequencing, lower scoring events, no non-premium scoring events as far as DFS scoring goes. So it's not great. Sub 4 implied total for them. Royals, oddly, against the much, much better pitcher, might be the more compelling stack. Just, the names, the power upside. Gav's downside for power, is downside for walks. A little bit of a weird back and forth there. If you're going to Guardians, though, Stephen Kwan in the mix, especially against this kind of a pitcher who's going to allow that contact. That's one of the guys who would be the mold for just, where he didn't do anything of major note, but he had 3 singles and scored 3 runs on a day where they just kept hitting through the lineup. That would eventually have an impact for DFS. Chase DeLauder, we talked about yesterday, hit his 6th home run, but it had been quite a while since the 5th home run. But he's been succeeding in other ways. 304, 392, 554 so far this season. He's been getting on base like crazy. 10.8% strikeout, 13.1% walk, fitting in with exactly what they want at the top of this Guardians lineup. Ramirez at 58, at 38, perfectly fine. 6 home runs on the board, 13 stolen bases, on his way to another 30-30 and beyond type season, a 108 WRC plus. That'll climb 375 xWOB under the 332 actual. Everything will go up. It's Jose Ramirez. Manzardo at 26 and 2,400 has gotten very cheap. He's right at Mendoza, 200, 280, 284, terrible slash line, 285 xWOB under a 262 actual is just atrociously bad. 60 points below the league average. He's made some good pieces of contact, but not frequently enough. 32.8% hard hit rate, 8.2% barrels down significantly from last year. And we're dealing with a pitcher who doesn't allow a lot of home run upside. Not a great day to be Kyle Manzardo, and he strikes out at nearly at a 32.7% rate. Reese Hoskins giving you more consistently well-struck batted ball events. Not seeing a ton of success for it. 98 plate appearances at 203, 347, 354. But at least he's getting on base. The walks, the on base support his 104 WRC plus, his ongoing upside, and the success that he's found. And the 9.6% barrel, the 46.2% hard hit does speak to his ability to still drive the ball. I think he starts finding success as long as he's consistently putting bat on ball like that. This could be a pitcher against whom we could find a key run scoring double in addition to 2 walks and a couple runs scored. That kind of a day. The home run downside again, though, impacted by Stephen Kolek and his ability to keep the ball down. Ono Martinez, Bo Naylor, Brian Rocchio. Martinez and Naylor are mix and match pieces going down the lineup. Ono Martinez had a brief flash for a moment, 5 home runs, 5 stolen bases on the board, and 113 chances this year. But we're already going to see the downslide, I think, is already commenced and will continue. Bo Naylor just looking for one cheap piece of contact. The guy to talk about down there is Travis Bazzana. Rocchio's here for defense, basically. Bazzana, though, 3,400, 2,900. Took a second to get started. Found his first major league hit the other day over 26 plate appearances. Has a pair of stolen bases. Is getting on already at a 385 clip over those 26 chances. He's drawn a 23.1% walk in the small sample. And that's his game. Low strikeout, high walk rate, ability to drive the ball. That's a very interesting bat at second base. Cheap if you're going to Guardians already. Probably not yet, and especially not if he's hitting 7th. Not yet a reason to go to the Guardians. Let me hit the lineups button. It's been a minute. On the Royals side, again, maybe the more interesting stack just for some of the power that's showing. Nobody above the magic number, though. Gav has been able, in the last 2 seasons to overcome the premium contact that he allows, at least to a degree. And the additional strikeout upside is there this year. He's blazing his way through some of these teams. 24% strikeout rate so far for these Royals this year, but we know that's way up. 17.8 last year, 21.9 the year before, the same collection of hitters, or the guys who were in the league anyway. Carter Jensen has fed that a little bit this year, but last year was 17.4% in a small sample. Truth is probably somewhere more around the league average. Jack Caglianone's up at 30.7. He was right at the league average at 22.4 last year. Same thing with Isaac Collins, 29 versus 21. So definitely some spikes early on. It could easily continue against the guy who's been finding the Ks no problem. But maybe some friskiness from the Royals. You get Michael Garcia at a fair price at the top of the lineup, 3 home runs, 4 steals, a 102 WRC plus. Just one of our favorite infield options. You also get him in the outfield on FanDuel. Second base eligibility is great. 44 at third, though, is perfectly fine. That's the position I would probably want him in most on DraftKings. 59-33, differently priced Bobby Witt Jr. DraftKings has it right, just keeping him where he belongs. 3,300 on FanDuel because he's only slashing 281, 354, 424. Only creating runs 12% better than average. Only has a 342 WOBA with a 377X. I don't get it. He's very cheap. I would go to that bat even against this pitcher. It's honestly not a terrible one-off. If you're just looking at Bobby Witt as a guy who can make great contact against the pitcher who's allowing it, even if he strikes out the other 3 times he's up, at 3,300, you kind of paid that off at a key position. Pasquantino's cheap because he's really scuffling. 198, 289, 364. Same as last year. I fully expect Vinny to come around and work his way out of it. He's too smart a hitter. 10.5% barrel is right where it belongs. I think we'll be fine in the long run. Very playable piece from the left side if we're looking for a little bit of power upside. I like Vinny's ability to drive the ball, even if it's for a couple of doubles and not a home run. There is definitely the ability to stack up some fantasy scoring there. Sal Perez, Carter Jensen, major upside for power from the catchers. 11 combined home runs in 200 and change plate appearances, nearing over 250. 58 WRC plus for Sal, who's been otherwise scuffling so far this season, but has gotten very, very cheap. And we know that battle eventually come around. If nothing else, the power has still been there and is very, very real still. Jensen has been the more complete hitter, but only just. 104 WRC plus, a 314 xWOB under the 331 actual. Caglianone's super interesting. 16.7% barrel, 54.5% hard hit from the left side. That's another key piece. If you're going to Royals and stacking up against Gav, you want to grab the guys who have those significant abilities to barrel the ball. 4 home runs on the season. Pretty solid slash line. I think he's still potentially underappreciated in this lineup, and he's very, very affordable. 27 and 33. First base eligible on FanDuel is nice. Collins, Massey, Isbell, more mix and matchy down the lineup. Any one of those guys in any given lineup is fine. If you've got 2 of them, you might want to reconsider that build. Gav, Royals, Guardians, Kolek. How does that jibe with the stacks board? I didn't pull the stacks board for today, but let me look. Yep. Royals 12, 12, 12, 13 with the 11th rated mark for home runs. Guardians check in at 14, 13, 14, 12. That's FanDuel points value, DraftKings points value, but 17th for home run upside. I think I nailed it, gang. Let's move on to the next one. All right, as mentioned, these Reds, there's some power showing right through there. Even some of these guys down here, kind of interesting. We'll see what we get for the confirmed lineup, but I think this is probably what it's going to look like. I'm a little intrigued. Not the hitting situation out at Wrigley that it was last night. Wind is blowing more in and across the field from right to left. 4.50 implied total on the Cubs side, I think, is going to draw the eye against Andrew Abbott. I think people are going to take some of those big righties with a lot of justification for that. They're showing fairly equivalent power to their opponents. Slightly less, actually, if we're looking at the whole numbers. But I don't know that the Reds get as popular as maybe they ought to be against Jameson Taillon, who comes in with a 22% strikeout rate that's entirely average. 9.2% walk is too high, especially against that strikeout rate. 4.41 ERA, that's basically exactly who he is. Mid-4s type guy, 4.59 xFIP, 4.38 Sierra. So the ERA is perfectly a tie between those two, allowing a 12.5% barrel on a 20.8 degree average launch. Yeah, he's been decent at limiting hard hits, exit velocity. Hasn't resulted in any ability to keep home run balls in the yard, though. 6.38 so far. Last year, it was similar. 8.1% barrel on a 19.7 degree average launch. I buy that he brings those two numbers back down to those kind of levels in the long run. Was allowing a 38.3% hard hit, 88.3 miles an hour of exit velo. Has done slightly better in those two categories this year, but that still amounted to a 4.62% home run rate allowed. Pitched to a 3.68 ERA. All right, fine, but still mid-4s. 4.34 xFIP, 4.40 Sierra. Sub 20% strikeout rate. So the strikeouts you would believe would come down. The walks as well. You know, compared to the year before that, it was all very similar. This is a pitcher we know pretty well. We know that Taillon can find success against this team too. The Reds could feed him a few additional strikeouts, 22.9% this year, 24.9, 23.8 the last 2 seasons for these hitters. But don't scratch these Reds off. They've been frisky. Some interesting left-handed bats to throw at Taillon here. I like their upside. I like their potential for some surprise scoring. Going to be under-owned, I think. Andrew Abbott going the other way at 66 at 7,000. I don't think we play. 15% strikeout so far this year, a 5.97 ERA. Just going through it. Really hasn't been good. Last season, worked to a 21.8% strikeout, 6.3% walk, 2.87 ERA, but a mid-4s xFIP, mid-4 Sierra. The contact wasn't a problem. The home run total was great, was perfectly fine in all those areas. It's just a good day for the Cubs. They don't stand out at 4.50, but on this board, that is one of the top 5 or whatever Vegas totals. What is it? 5th highest Vegas total, tied for 5th. They rank 7-9 on FanDuel, 8-11 on DraftKings. A little bit more upside for FanDuel with the home run hitting potential. 7th overall by home runs. But the Reds are a little higher on the stacks board today. And the Reds' Vegas total is 17th at the 3 and whatever. So, that's a great example of where the stacks board doesn't always entirely jibe with Vegas. I do follow it. That's why it's on the stacks board, so that you can kind of look at what the run total is. Another example the other way is Arizona. 2nd highest Vegas total, 11-14, 11-15 on the stacks board, 15th by home runs. But the Reds pulling 5.5 on FanDuel, 7th by points and 4th by value, and the 3rd highest home run rating as a unit on the board here. So give me some sneaky Reds. TJ Friedl at the top, 35-27. Slow start to his year, but we know how good he was last year at getting on base. It's a really good option in the leadoff role. I don't mind starting a Red stack with some TJ Friedl. For real Kev says Dodgers times Cubs again parlay. I don't see any issue with going to Dodgers and Cubs. Those are two of the Two of the top 5 Vegas totals on the board, some of the best bats on the board in general. Kev also wanted to know Boston or the Tigers. Haven't paid much attention to the early slate today. Let me take a quick peek. Nailed Jansen Junk yesterday. Really like the upside. I talked about the stuff, the location, and the pitching plus numbers for Jansen Junk. Surprisingly, top results. The lowest he was 19th. Top 20 in every category. Top 10 in pitching plus. So let's see. It's the Red Sox against Fromber, or who was your other choice? Thanks, Guy Boston Sports. Appreciate you. Guy Boston says, enjoying the stream. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Appreciate you. Boston or the Tigers. All right, so you're just on either side of that game. 4.8 implied total, it looks like, for the Tigers going up against Giovanni Moran. I would probably lean toward the Tigers. Moran appears to be a lefty. I don't know a lot about Giovanni. So, maybe it knocks a little bit on the power output. Looks like no Kerry Carpenter in the lineup against the lefty, but you do have Riley Green. He would still be your key bat there. McGonigal has not struggled at all, lefty-lefty. I wouldn't expect him to. You get Veerling in the leadoff role. Probably lean Tigers a little bit in that one. Frommer's just not a pitcher I like attacking for DFS because he's so good when he's going right at keeping the ball in the yard, keeping the ball down and going like 7 innings, so he limits the exposure to the bullpen. So I would probably lean toward the Tigers and the much higher Vegas total in that one. Hopefully that didn't push Guy Boston Sports away. Hopefully this doesn't. Appreciate you. Everybody, any of the new folks in the chat, if you don't know the website, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I'll do the plug real quick. It's rotoscouts.com. Projections and content for every single main slate across all 4 major sports, MLB, NBA, NHL, and NFL. We're going through the playoffs for 2 of those. NFL's right around the corner. You get access to all of it. Literally anything that hits that website for the same subscription. Under $1 a day across weekly, monthly, and quarterly plans. Access all of it. So you're talking about $6.93, I think, to get from today to next Tuesday. The month is like $22, and there's a quarterly plan available too if you want to dive in and save a little bit more money per month. So check that out, rotoscouts.com. You get access to these game-by-game snapshots that show you these same statistical boards with all the projections and everything laid out just like this. It's literally a screenshot of what you see there. It's just a screenshot. You can't change options, but you get those. You get my top stacks board, home run picks, projections for pitchers and hitters, so on and so forth. Dive in back in. So if we're going to these Reds, JJ Bleday has been on fire. 25 plate appearances, 3 home runs on the board, getting on base. We probably cool back down to the guy that saw 344 plate appearances last year, /212, 294, 404, had a 90 WRC plus, 14 home runs. Year before that, 20 home runs, though, in 642 chances, 303 chances the year before, 10 home runs, but a substandard sub-Mendoza slash line. The quality is not going to be maintained as a 300, 440 type front end of the slash. But given the contact he's made early, capable enough lefty bat who's found good enough home run totals in mixed samples over the past few years, it wouldn't shock me at all if he continues to ride at least against right-handed pitching in this lineup and continues to find success for power upside. Carrying a 10.15, I haven't put my thumb on the scale. The model I don't think even knows about those 25 plate appearances. That's just who JJ Bleday is. So plenty fine going to him at 2,800, 3,600, hitting ahead of Ellie De La Cruz. I came damn close to making Ellie the home run pick of the day. 11.31. I really, really wanted to, but I went a different direction. He was tied with the guy I ended up taking in the Fangraphs game sim probabilities. One of my top rated guys for a home run at 11.3 run. We love Ellie De La Cruz around here. 10 home runs, 8 stolen bases on the year, creating runs at a 149 clip by WRC plus. Major source of premium contact. Sal Stewart, 17.9% barrel. He's carrying a 9.84 in the home run model. 9 on the board already this year, 7 stolen bases to go with it. I was expecting Sal to arrive for some power, some premium contact this year. I wasn't expecting to get on bases frequently as he is. Limit strikeout like he's been, 17.9 and 11.9% rates in both those categories is tremendous. And he's stealing bases, which I wasn't really expecting. So it's a more complete player. You get him at first or third base on DraftKings. Third base only for a fair price on both on FanDuel. 3,300, 2,900 at first base gives you a reason to move Sal over to third. I think the shallow third base also is a very good reason to put Sal Stewart at third if you're going to the Reds. But having Nathaniel Lowe able to fill first, he's been tremendous since joining this team. 73 really good plate appearances. We've seen these stretches from Nathaniel Lowe, and then he cools and becomes just a kind of pedestrian hitter again. But right now, 14% barrel, 52% hard hit, 5 homers, getting on like the Nathaniel Lowe of old at a 342 clip. even if the power pace cools, if he's continuing to do that, I would like him to stay at an above average run creation pace and contribute to this team. So that's a capable enough and still really cheap lefty bat going up against a gettable righty. Spencer Steer, monster barrel rate at 16.3%. He's hit 5 home runs already this year, getting on base at a good clip at 331, 375 xWOB under his 344 actual. The hard hit rate leaves something to be desired and is probably indicative that things cool. It's just some good batted ball events so far. But he's a guy who's been capable of driving the ball over recent years. Strikeouts are a little bit up. That probably comes down. Walks probably go up a little bit. So some normalization will happen for Spencer Steer, but a super playable part at a very fair price on a stack that, again, they're going to be under owned. I want to get here. Tyler Stevenson on DraftKings at least at 3,000. 14% barrel this year, 14.4 last year, 9.1 the year before, 7.6 the year before that. The guy is a good source of sneaky catcher home runs. He had a dozen of them last year, 14 of them the year before in 388, 253. Oh, no, sorry, that was Will Benson. I was looking at the wrong line. He hit 13 of them last year. Baker's dozen in 342 chances, 19 in 515 the year before. That's a good catcher bat that people don't typically go to all that heavily. 6.96 in the home run model today. Will Benson is a player we like. Lefty thumper. Gets in there from time to time against righties. Seen some regular plate appearances in this lineup in that platoon role. Assuming he and JJ Bleday are both in the lineup, I like getting to both of those guys in a number of red stacks. If I built one red stack, it would be on DraftKings, it would almost certainly have both those guys. On FanDuel, it's a bit of a stretch. I probably would do it just because Benson is so cheap at 22 with very realistic multi-home run upside on any given slate. His power is real. Everything else is also real. The ridiculously elevated strikeout rates, the lack of any kind of consistency at doing anything else on the baseball field, that's all very real as well, but major power upside. So probably in 1, 2, 3, and then I want Sal. That's probably my most likely FanDuel red stack. 32.50 on the average kind of works. I'm not skipping Sal to get to low. That would be the guy that I would probably want from up there if I'm not going to Benson in that spot. DraftKings is just more straightforward. You can take or leave Friedel. You grab those 3. You probably grab Lowe and then Benson. Then the conversation becomes, all right, do I want Nate Lowe or do I want to go a little cheaper and take Stevenson at 3,000 and fill my catcher and leave my first base share for another big time first baseman, which I think is a very good / advisable approach to stacking 5 reds on DraftKings. That's a 4,080 average, so 4,100 a piece. It's entirely affordable. Again, not a great Vegas total. Model likes it a heck of a lot better. I like targeting Jameson Taillon a lot better than Vegas seems to. But it's a spot I'm going to ride with in at least a lineup or 2. Slightly in, cross the field from right to left quality. It's always a relevant question in Chicago. It is not the same day for bats in Chicago. But it is a good opportunity against these pitchers for capable lineups. And it's not all about the wind. Nico, off to a great start. Good player, off to a very good start. 299, 369, 460. Creating runs at a 135 clip. A little bit of power. Excellent ability to steal bags. Great table setter for the rest of the bats in this lineup. Alex Bregman, I love the power upside, 8.41 in the home run model, 6.9% barrel, 44.8% hard hit, exactly where he was last year, exactly where he was the year before. The overall has maybe come down a little bit from his apex, but still an excellent bat, 15% strikeout, 11.9% walk, 3 home runs on the board, a 338 on base. The WOBA, the ex-WOBA, kind of mediocre, 316, slightly below average, 329 expected is slightly above average. I think he pushes those numbers as the year goes on. He's too good to really be that hard in decline. 43.28 is very affordable for that bat against this lefty. Ian Happ is off to a tremendous start. 8 home runs, a 377 on base, 356 ex-WOBA under a 384 actual. Tremendous piece of contact in his 14.8% barrel rate so far. Leading the team in barrels, in fact, over Seiya Suzuki, over Michael Busch, who's really struggling this year. Busch has been problematic. That's a lefty bat that you certainly want if you're going to Cubs, and at least he's gotten cheap, 3,600, 2,800. Still carrying a 9.5 in the home run model. We saw him surge for power output last year. Just going through it, he hasn't found the regular premium contact. 8.3% barrel is halved from 17.1 last year. 35.4% hard hit from 47.3. I think he finds it. Just needs to, it's a month. We just need a little bit more consistency to start coming through, and you're not paying any kind of tax for last year at this point price-wise. So easy enough to reach. Suzuki at 49.34, 6 home runs, off to a tremendous start, 173 WRC plus. Very real power upside, monster barrel rate and hard hits last year. Excellent power bat in the heart of this lineup to throw against the lefty. Tremendous upside in a lefty-righty matchup. Dansby, a player that people just sleep on. We talked about it yesterday. I believe he was under-owned yesterday. Sub 10% on FanDuel on a day when everybody and their brother went to the Cubs. 3,600 on DraftKings, 11.8% barrel, 49.4% hard hits for Dansby. 6 home runs on the board, carrying a 347 xWOBA unders, 327 actual, 196 ISO, a 108 WRC plus. I guarantee he's going to be under-owned again tonight for people among people who go to the Cubs. They're one of the better stacks again. So 3,300 fair, 3,600 on DraftKings, super cheap, going to be under-owned. Maybe it gets more popular than on FanDuel at that price, but people don't go to him enough. Matt Shaw is a mix and match level talent. Pico Armstrong has been playing like one for 144 plate appearances this year and like the final 250 last year. It's been about a half a season of downside Pico Armstrong since we've seen the good one. He does have a solid barrel rate, solid hard hit rate to hang your hat on a little bit here. Price is still elevated at 47 on DK, 29 on FanDuel, a little bit of a different proposition, but even started to come down as far as the model goes. Some of the lackluster numbers are starting to catch up with him a little bit. So little ding to PCA, but I still believe the talent, the raw skills are very, very real for that player. Any given slate, worth throwing a dart. One lineup, tougher to reach, especially down lineup, especially lefty as well. And then Miguel Amaya mix and match from the bottom if he's in the lineup. I'm going with the stacks board. Reds, Cubs, Tyon over Abbott, though. So we're a little defiant of Vegas with that one. Never makes me totally comfortable going that way when there's a full run separation between the two teams. But that's how the stacks board's reading it. They're going to be a value spot for the Reds, and they're going to be low owned. Interesting DFS-wise at the very worst. That's what we're here for anyway, right? Michael asks, Diamondbacks decent for single entry. I don't love that Diamondbacks lineup, but they've obviously been succeeding. They've been creating runs. They're carrying the second highest total of the day in Vegas against a gettable enough starter. I just continue to think that that's like a 3-man lineup that has a bunch of guys overachieving in small samples in April at the bottom of it. So I think they're in play. I think they're decent is probably the correct word. I don't know that I would say they're a good play. I've got them ranked down the board in the stacks tool. They're kind of, what are they? 11th, 14th on FanDuel, 11th, 15th on DraftKings, 15th by home runs, but second by Vegas total against Bubba Chandler. Some back and forth there. No Benson in the Reds lineup. Damn. That sucks. Not a major downgrade to that lineup, though, with everything we talked about for it, right? That was the projected 8-hitter. So it's a little bit less impact. It's more impactful, I think, for DFS than it is for the Reds specifically. Let's just take a quick peek at what they actually put together, though, since it's a lineup that I was calling out. So we got Matty McLean down lineup. There's nothing wrong with that. There's tons of upside there. Ke'Bryan Hayes found some success last night. 2,000 on DraftKings, 2,100 on FanDuel. Has been bad all season long, has never been a guy who's found regular success, but has always been a guy who's been able to check strikeouts. He doesn't draw a ton of walks, so you're just dealing with frequency of contact with Ke'Bryan Hayes, and he's extremely, extremely cheap at the bottom of the lineup. Playable piece, but not a go-to guy for any kind of expectation of actual output. You take what you get from him if he happens to scratch out a base hit. On a day where he goes yard, obviously, it's tremendous. Up at the top, looks exactly like expected. So it really is just the McLean spot in there. And Matty McLean really struggling, over 143 chances, but we know there's very realistic upside for home runs and stolen bases, if nothing else, from him, if he manages to find one good piece of contact. So playable part, doesn't really do anything to shorten it up, and still like the top 7 just as much. All right, as mentioned, the Brewers got back 2 big pieces in Andrew Vaughn and, more importantly, Jackson Chourio up at the top of this lineup. Those are 2 tremendous assets for this team. Vaughn adds a little bit of potential power. Last season had a 12% barrel, 47.7% hard hit. We know he was up and down. The first half of the season was entirely empty and then he surged once he got to Milwaukee from the White Sox. What he looks like this year is in question. He's only made 9 plate appearances so far, but I'm a buyer on the talent. That premium contact that he made last year was pretty realistic compared to expectations for him and what he had done in previous seasons in the show. Just started to put all the pieces together, was in and out of the lineup a little bit down the stretch last year as well. If memory serves, he took an injury of some kind at one point after the surge. But if he's on the field, I'm interested at 3,000 at 2,500 going up against Andre Palante. The one thing Palante does well, though, is check the home run power. Nobody above the 6.36 that Jackson Chourio is pulling in a team that's relatively light for home run output anyway. Not a great spot for that, but sequencing's on the board for this team. That's what they're excellent at. Ton of guys that draw a bunch of walks. Excellent for on-base percentage up and down this lineup. They're a team that's just good at sequencing and putting runs together. Low strikeout, 15.6% is skewed by the 0 there, obviously. 21-7 last year with a number of realistic, mid to low teens. Chourio himself down at 20.5% last year. Plenty of upside for the Brewers. 3.77 total. Maybe speaks a little bit to Palante's ability to keep the ball in the ballpark. He pitched to a 3.73 ERA over 6 starts, just a sub 20% strikeout, walking too many guys at 10.1%. All he really does is this 6.9 degree average launch. Last year, that was 1.4, resulted in a 2.94% home run rate, 1.1 with a 1.57 the year before. Never cracked 20% strikeouts, 3.73 ERA with worse xFIPs, 5.31 ERA with better xFIPs, but 4 plus last year. Definitely a targetable starter. I think the Brewers may be a little underappreciated on the Vegas board, especially with the pieces returning. Going to the Cardinals side is doable against Brandon Sproat as well, though. 4 starts so far, 21.7% strikeout rate. Kid's got plenty of talent, and we should see upside emerge as the season goes on and in future years. Right now, 6.75 ERA, not getting it done. 4.78 xFIP is better, but definitely targetable near 5 runs. A lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits, 6.09% home runs. Some happenstance in there, but it's a fly ball trajectory pitcher. A lot of premium contact allowed so far. In 20 2/3 last year, he wasn't really that guy in terms of the fly balls, but that's a really small sample equal to this one. Where the truth falls is probably somewhere in between as the contact goes. So I think the upside bats we've seen from the Cards, guys like J.J. Weatherholt, who's finding a lot of success. Certainly your Jordan Walkers, your Nolan Gormans, Ivan Herrera to a degree. Playable, but not a great Vegas total, 3.81 implied. Not a great spot on the board. They're like 15th or somewhere around there. If you're going to the Brewers side, Garrett Mitchell, 12.7% barrel. I'm interested in that if he's in the leadoff spot. Home run on the board, 5 stolen bases, getting on at a 364 clip, right in line with what this team does, 17.6% barrel. The one noteworthy thing there is the 35.3% strikeout. 2 seasons of mixed samples, 3 seasons of mixed samples, all well above 30% strikeouts. That's just who Garrett Mitchell is. But as long as he's drawing the walks, and particularly against a pitcher who doesn't really find, even a 1 in 5 strikeout rate, it's at least a spot worth rolling the dice at a cheap price. Chourio is a star, 30-30 type talent. Last year, 21 homers, 21 stolen bases in 589. Year before, 21 and 22 in 573. But the upside to 30-30 is clear. Young player still. A couple seasons in the show already, but still young 20s. Tons of room to continue to grow. Massive, massive talent. Big time buyer at 51, 35. Those are great prices for that player. Those should go up. Bryce Terang at 55, 43. One of the better options at second base across the board. Tremendous for barrels again this season. 11.5 up from 7.9 last year, up from below 3 the years before that. Just putting all the pieces together. 304, 434, 522, 5 homers, 7 steals. Been tremendous. William Contreras, playable bat, especially where you need catchers. On FanDuel, he's more of a back and forth option. I do like other options, including Andrew Vaughn at first. You can obviously have all 3 of, if you want, William Contreras, Jake Bauers, and Andrew Vaughn, because you get outfield eligibility on Bauers, and you can obviously roster the 2 first base catcher guys. But it's not the best configuration of this lineup. So there is a little bit of back and forth between those guys. And if it wasn't for the Bauers flexibility, it would be a lot, because you do want that bat. 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 21 runs, 19 ribbies to make the point I accidentally almost made. 10.5% barrel, 53.5% hard hit for Jake Bauers. That is an underappreciated player in this lineup. Guy's been supporting the team with power, has the ability to steal bases, has made great contact in medium samples over the past few seasons. just a really good player who's getting a more regular chance, 108 WRC plus this year. Frelick, Renifo, and David Hamilton, mix and match pieces all. Frelick will find the hit tool again and start getting on base, start stealing bases, creating runs again. Overall, just kind of an average hit tool-oriented player, though. Low strikeout, medium walk rate, puts balls in play, but needs to beat him to first base. Renifo, you could say a lot of that, but he does have multi-position eligibility through the infield for 25, which does help things work a little bit with this team if you're stacking them up. And then Hamilton got off to an okay start, but has kind of created 103 pretty poor plate appearances, now 78 WRC plus, loosely playable. On this side, Weatherholt, 7 home runs on the board in 161 chances, getting on at a 360 clip too. Really delivering on the premium prospect pedigree immediately. 5,000 at second base on DraftKings. Shortstop and second base. I prefer him at second on FanDuel at 37. I was getting a fair share of him as a one-off across shortstop yesterday in various builds. Really interesting player to one-off. Really interesting player as the one of the go-tos in this stack. That is cheap for a catcher who has a 8.1% barrel, 47.5% hard hit on DraftKings. 4,200 is entirely affordable. Had a great year last year. He's gotten on at a 416 clip to start this season, a 377 weighted on base with a 381 expected underneath it. Yeah, not bad. I don't really understand why he's not a $5,000 player on DraftKings where you have to have that position, especially in a cheap overall lineup. Alec Burleson at 45, entirely playable. 5 home runs, succeeding with bat on ball from the left side, also getting on base at a nice clip. 15.1% strikeout is very real. That's who he's been over time. But the 11.2% walk rate so far this season is not quite doubling his previous seasons, but closing in on. That's a really important, really interesting uptick for this hitter. Jordan Walker's just been tremendous. 308, 377, 585 with 10 home runs and 6 steals. Absolutely love that he's delivering on all that talent. We talked about it on opening day. We wrote about it before opening day. We were the last believers. Here he is. Everybody wants a piece now. 53-43. One of our guys. Love Jordan Walker here. Nolan Gorman at 32-28 helps offset the expensive price on Walker. Love the power upside there. 5 home runs on the board, and otherwise Nolan Gorman-ish slash line. You don't expect him to be on base. You don't expect him to do much more than find one good batted ball event from the left side, but he can crush baseballs. Mason Wynn, just an average player, more mix and matchy at shortstop. I'd prefer J.J. Weatherholt. Nathan Church from the left side, okay, 12% barrel rate. 5 home runs on the board, 3 steals, but otherwise pretty poor, 96 WRC plus despite the success for DFS stats. Probably a better DFS option, honestly, than a real-life player. At least he's affordable, 31-28. Not a bad option, but more just another outfielder. Pedro Paez, playable, cheap catcher, but you'd rather have Herrera in most situations. And Victor Scott not getting on base enough to support anything else that he does. Going to defer again to the stacks board here. Yeah, that's right. The Brewers ran out pretty well. Brewers, Cards, and then what do we have pitcher-wise? Sproat over Planty? Yeah. Brewers over the Cards, Sproat over Planty in that order. Brewers don't rank poorly. 7th by points, 10th by value on FanDuel, 4th by points on DraftKings because they pick up a little bit for the hit tool for the on base on DK that they don't necessarily get bonus. They are a little bit dinged by the lack of power on FanDuel. 10th by value on both sites, just 16th by home run, 14th by Vegas ranking though. Really weird, interesting spot for them and for the Reds. 17th and 14th, both ranked in the top handful of teams stacks-wise today. Rolling on, the Dodgers top total on the day, 517 implied going up against Peter Lambert. He's made 3 starts, 15 and a third. Is pitching to a 28.8% strikeout rate with a 13.4% swinging in the small sample. 3.52 ERA with basically matching xFIP and Sierra. It's not like he's been bad, but it's the Dodgers on the other side. No Shohei Ohtani in the lineup today for Los Angeles because he's on the mound. They've been doing that in recent starts. He's been kind of scuffling, at least for him, at the plate a little bit. Pitching's been there. The strikeout rate, as mentioned, has gone up in recent outings. It's back up at 28.6%. He's gone exactly 6 innings in each of his starts. So I think that would probably be the expectation here. They don't want to push it too much. 5 starts, 6 innings apiece. The important thing for me, I think, is the 9 strikeouts last time out, 7 the start before that, and 10 the outing before that one to push the strikeout rate back up to 28.6. 13.7% swinging strike rate. It alleviates any concerns I had around the edges And obviously he's pitched to a 0.60 ERA, but a much higher 3.21 xFIP, 3.16 Sierra. Those are still sparkling numbers. They're just quite a bit higher than 0.60. Not to say that he's necessarily going back up to the expected numbers, though, anytime soon. It's a tremendous starter. Going up against a Astros team that is 22.2%, 22 last year, 18.5 the year before for strikeouts. So a few more Ks maybe than in a couple years ago in this Astros lineup, primarily at the bottom, though. The top 5 hitters are all pretty tremendous at avoiding strikeouts in general. So not the greatest target in the world for Ohtani. Not that it's going to lead me to many Astros bats. I do, however, think that it's worth pointing out this is a talent-laden lineup. So if you're choosing to go contrarian, it is one of those spots where I would say you can do that with the Astros. You're going up against the top pitcher on the day, guy that's going to have significant ownership at a significant price. So if they connect, there's multiple dominoes that get knocked down by having that contrarian stack. And there's nothing to say that Jordan Alvarez, Christian Walker, Carlos Correa can't succeed against Ohtani. Any given slate, you've got enough upside in this lineup to at least put them in that mix. That does not make them a go-to, though. Does not even really make them one that I would want an abundance of contrarian options for them. A handful? Sure. Starting at the top for the Dodgers, Dalton Rushing in the leadoff role, kind of interesting. 41, 3,000. 7 home runs on the board in 57 pretty hot plate appearances. 14.3% barrel. Doesn't seem fair that the Dodgers should be able to bring up kids like this, but there you are. He was a long-time top-end prospect for them, really paying off the patience and has been tremendous. Love the option at 41 on DraftKings. Very playable on FanDuel at 3,000, but then you've got a blocker with Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. You can't have them all. A little bit of an issue there, but tremendous in either direction with him and Will Smith. Freddie, I would say, is the one guy that I want in basically, all of those. I'd be rotating around Freddie with the 2 catchers, not the other way around. But all 3 of those guys, tons of consistency out of Freddie and Will Smith. They look pretty identical across their slash lines so far this year. 111 and 113 WRC plus from the left and the right, respectively. Love both bats. Wish you could have them all in any given stack. Kyle Tucker hit a home run yesterday. 4 home runs on the board. Again, hitting again today in Houston could do nice things for him. Familiar stomping grounds. Still really cheap at 31 on FanDuel, 52 on DraftKings. Super affordable for such a good bat. That is hopefully starting to come around for the season. 242, 325, 386. Not what the Dodgers were expecting with the $500 million investment that they made, but plenty of upside for Kyle Tucker. We know how good he is. Teoscar Hernandez, super affordable at 4,000, 3,000 for his power upside. He's got a 10.1% barrel, 45% hard hit, kind of in line with who he was last year. Slight downturn from years past, but no reason to think that he couldn't come surging back for power in the long term, and certainly against a lower-end, inexperienced pitcher like Peter Lambert. Tons of upside, carrying an 11.37 in the home run model today, only surpassed by Tucker's 12.71. You've also got 4 guys in the 9s, one just under 9 at 8.78 for Andy Paez. Max Muncy's one of those guys in the 9s. He's only 45 on DraftKings, and I do not understand that. That's just one of the better fantasy contributors in baseball. Take advantage of that fair price for Max Muncy at a weak third base. 36 on FanDuel is a correct price. 9 home runs on the board, 292, 394, 575. He's on base all the time. 3 true outcomes hitter who will strike out, but draws tons and tons of walks. And even the strikeouts last year, 21.4, the year before, 26.3, 26.4 the year before that. This year so far, 23.5. It's completely offset by the walk, but it's not even a problematic strikeout rate for all the power output you get from Max Muncy. I don't get why he's not 5,000 on DraftKings. Take advantage. Andy Paez should probably also be priced back up there. 36 on FanDuel for him. Max Muncy, Andy Paez, the 2 most expensive Dodgers bats, hitting 6-7 on your FanDuel slate. Different setup on DraftKings. Paez, 5 home runs, 5 steals. Solid 313, 357, 492 slash line, and a very real talent. It's another kid who came up with a lot of prospect pedigree for this team. We saw a bit of him last year, seen him more consistently this year, found some success last year, finding even more this year. Alex Freeland, Miguel Rojas, mix and match pieces at worst down the bottom. Freeland, another high-end prospect for this team. 9.7% barrel, maybe a little bit sneaky. The other numbers, a little bit lackluster there. Substandard hard hit rate. Hasn't found a ton of good results. But based on those barrels, I do think there's more upside for power, more ability to drive the ball than typically from a $2,500 second baseman. So very much in play. Helps you reach a lot of Dodgers as well. If you're putting him in the lineup, you take Max there. Obviously, we want Freddie and Tucker. That's my 4-man, right? Start out with 2 discounts. get the two obvious guys, and then any one of rushing, Smith, Teoscar, Pajes is more expensive than those guys. But I mean, we're at 42.75 right now. So let me take the cheapest with Will Smith at 3,800 hitting third, 41.80. So I'm getting that line. I'm getting that 5-man for 4,200 apiece for the Dodgers 5-man on a day where they've got a 5.17 total against Peter Lambert. It's a little silly. There's a lot of purchasing power in the Dodgers today. On the Astros side of things, again, Correa, 3,900, 3,300, even against Ohtani. I'm a buyer. 279, 369, 418. If I'm going to Astros anyway, it's an important piece. 18.4% strikeout, drawing a ton of walks. 10.3% barrel is well up from last year, looking like the Carlos Correa of old. And he's still cheap. It's a really good way to fill shortstop if you're going to be contrarian about things. 63-42, not incorrect for Jordan Alvarez, just one of the best hitters in baseball, full stop. Isaac Paredes, 39-29. You're looking for the one just poke to left field that happens to get over the wall. He also gets on base, though. He limits strikeouts. Again, this is a problematic target for Ohtani up at the top with all those guys significantly below a 20% strikeout rate. Christian Walker's been tremendous, 18.2% strikeout, 10.1% walk rate, looking like the guy from 2023, 2022 with the Diamondbacks. 8 home runs on the board, tremendous slash line. Could absolutely be a part of the plan tonight with the Astros. Those are 4 really good bats. Then you get Jose Altuve, who consistently overperforms what his actual talent probably is. He's been okay this year. 3 home runs, a stolen base, 336 on base, contributing with a 103 WRC plus, but probably coming back down the mountain a little bit. Cam Smith at 3,000, 2,900. Good source of on base when he's going right. Slipped below a 10% walk rate. Too many strikeouts against the 9.9, but he's made good contact at a 15.3% barrel, 45.9% hard hit. It's a really playable bat if you're going to Astros, if nothing else. Not a reason to go to them, but if you get there and you don't want to roster Altuve at second base, you could easily plunk down Cam Smith as your next man in. Zach Cole at the dead min price. Got a home run in his 4 plate appearances. Barreled a couple balls already. Last year in 52 chances, he hit 4 home runs, stole 3 bases. So that's a pretty damn good 56 plate appearances, 5 home runs and 3 stolen bases. I don't think that continues, but he's also the min price. So if you're just mixing bats on the contrarian Astros, might as well grab one of the really cheap ones that helps you buy a better pitcher to pay off the difference. Christian Vasquez, Nick Allen, more mix and matchy. Greatly prefer Zach Cole at the dead min to Nick Allen at the dead min. We know that Nick Allen's not much of a hitter. Dodgers bats, Ohtani. Astros bats, Lambert. I know guys have found some success against the Dodgers recently in the last 2 weeks or so. I just don't like the price at 82 for Lambert. Had him a couple of times back here. Sub 20% strikeout rate over 61 and a third, mix between start and relief, 5.72 ERA, 4.68 xFIP. Sub 20% over more starts, 11 starts, 87 and a third that year, 5.36 ERA, 4.92 xFIP. See what I'm talking about? Not really a fan. Not at these prices anyway. Not against this team. Out of all the games on this slate, I think this might be your most interesting game stack. I don't think I'm breaking any crazy ground there. You got a matchup between Eric Fede and Sammy Aldieri. Definitely some targetable pitching. Fede, 33 and a third this year, 16.4% strikeout. He's been adequate. All these White Sox have been finding success, at least on the surface. But most of the younger guys are pitching well under those covers as well. Fede, not so much. 4.79 xFIP, 4.65 Sierra. 16.4% strikeouts, not doing much against that 8.2% walks. It's 8.21 strikeout minus walk, which is one of our better indicators of future ERA. He's given up some premium contact at an 8.1% barrel on a fly ball trajectory. Though the hard hits, the exit velo have been down, he's still giving up some home runs, some happenstance ones. Last year, there was more hard hit, more exit velocity, similar barrels and launch, 3% home run, but didn't strike anybody out. Walked too many guys. Leads to a lot of scoring. 5.49 ERA, similar xFIP and Sierra. It's not a good pitcher. Definitely targetable with Angels bats. They've got 4 guys above the magic number, including our home run pick of the day, who is in the lineup. I can confirm. On the White Sox side, though, Sammy got into an inning and 2/3. I believe that was against the Yankees the other day. Yeah, inning and 2/3. He faced 8 Yankees hitters. Struck out 2 of them, walked 1 of them, gave up a home run. 1 earned run on 2 hits to the 8 hitters. Had made 5 starts in AAA this season. He was 1-3. That's not his fault, but the 7.77 ERA isn't great. I don't have an XFIP or Sierra number from the AAA sample, but it doesn't look great. Got through 6 innings in his most recent outing, just stretching out. 5 earned runs allowed on 8 hits to AAA San Francisco, though. Struck out 5, walked 2. Had a 7 strikeout day, a 5 strikeout day. So he was finding the Ks a little bit, but giving up a lot of runs to minor league hitting. Gave up 4 home runs in 5 starts at AAA. Last season, we saw him for 9 innings, made 1 start. Was okay, gave up some contact, gave up, looks like a home run in that sample. I believe some of that was stretched over a couple appearances of relief. Pitched to an 8.0 ERA, 6.98 XFIP. Season before, only 3 starts, 13 innings. Pretty mediocre to poor. I think we're targetable here, especially with a surging White Sox team pulling a 4.5 run total. 2 guys way above the magic number for home run power. A couple other guys lurking, some interesting names as well. Chase Meadroth in the leadoff role in the projected, still no confirmed lineup here. Meadroth, super interesting, 37, 2,700. We're seeing him and Sammy Antonacci flip back and forth, lefty-righty, between that leadoff spot with a lefty on the bump today. I would expect Meadroth. A lot of success with the hit tool. He's getting on at a 340 clip. Should push this run creation mark. Not a tremendous source of high-quality batted balls, but frequent batted balls and a lot of walks. That's his game. Striking out a little bit more than expectations so far, but I expect that comes back down. Yeah, that makes sense. 37, 2,700, fair price in the middle infield to pay for that hitter. Munetaka Murakami, basically nobody better than him in the show right now. 22.4% barrel, 14 home runs, tied with Aaron Judge in the league lead. 408 WOBA, 404 expected, 158 WRC plus, 18.2% walk rate. He even hit a double for the first time the other day. Miguel Vargas at 48.35, mix and match level talent, 7 home runs, 5 steals, filling some counting stats, getting on base pretty efficiently this season, 360 on base, has supported the run creation, if nothing else, for this team. 125 WRC plus at him so far, 17.3% strikeout against 16% walk, totally works, 12.2% barrel, 44.9% hard hit. He's putting some of the pieces together here. It'd be interesting if he started hitting for a little bit more average, push that on base even more, but the power output's been nice, the added walks have been nice. The strikeout rate was appreciably low already last year, but he's found a little bit of an uptick. So interesting bat at the very worst. Price has gone up to places I don't love with the associated name, but I'll pay it if I'm going to this team. Colson Montgomery, 46.33, not expensive enough. Helps pay for Miguel Vargas being overpriced. 9 home runs on the board for Montgomery. 145 plate appearances, getting on base like crazy. 126 WRC plus, major source of premium contact at shortstop. One of the ideal shortstop bats, even lefty here against this pitcher. Antonacci, as mentioned, probably slides down the lineup. He's found a 12.2% barrel rate so far. 1 home run on the board, slashing 273, 379, 436 since coming up from the minors. Right on expectation as far as what the hit tool looks like. The discerning hitter who's got a 10.6% strikeout, 9.1% walk over his first 66 major league plate appearances. That's who Sam Antonacci is. So really interesting bat as far as just frequency of bat on ball, ability to drive the ball, steal bases. That's an interesting run creator, if nothing else, in the heart of the lineup. Edgar Quero, Derek Hill, mix and match guys. Luis Angel, probably a little bit less than even that. 169, 235, 182 start. Maybe not going to cling to that lineup spot unless he gets it going for too much longer. And then the guy I skipped over, Randall Grichuk, in the heart of this projected lineup. Just signed with the team. If he's available today at the dead min on DraftKings, that is a really interesting right-handed bat to throw at Sam Aldieri. Probably goes under-owned, even at the min price. So far this season, in 34 plate appearances with the Yankees, 17.4% barrel and 52.2% hard hit that are very elevated in the small sample, but not out of line with who Randall Grichuk is and has been over the last couple seasons. This is a guy with plenty of right-handed power for a part-time player. Hit 9 home runs in 293 chances last year, hit a dozen in 279 the year before that. Just 16 in 471 chances with a little bit of diminishment in the barrel rate, the hard hit in 2023. But a guy who's been over 20 home runs multiple times, hit 30 home runs once. A lot of strikeout in his game this year so far, but in years past, that was not a problem for him. 20.8, 16.5, 20.4. Randall Grichuk is just a good player, and he should at minimum see plenty of plate appearances from the against left-handed pitching for this team. Still a good outfielder as well. So I would expect him today, assuming that he got himself to Los Angeles. I would expect him in the lineup. And I think that's a really interesting piece on DraftKings. Currently not available on FanDuel. Hopefully they add him before the slate starts. The Angels, the more intriguing of the two teams, I think, going up against the super gettable Eric Fede, despite how he's pitched this season. 4 guys above the magic number, 4.60 implied total. Again, I'm interested in game stack in this one. I think they fit together in interesting ways. This is another spot where I think it would pay. The double shortstop option there kind of pays off. Right? If you go, you can't do that on DraftKings, by the way, obviously. That's a FanDuel idea. But getting Neto at short, Montgomery at util. For one, I'm going outfield with those other guys. And that crosses me off from Antonacci, but it doesn't cross me off from Murakami. It doesn't cross me off from Miguel Vargas. Definitely doesn't cross me off from Chase Meadroth up at the top. So these two teams actually fit well together with all the ideal bats that you want to get to. I haven't priced it out or anything. I feels like it would be affordable. Second base, first base, third base, util. 34.50 a piece, 27.6 total spend across those hitters. That works. That leaves me plenty of money. Neto at 54 at 35. High priority bat if you're going to the Angels. 5 home runs, 7 steals, and 11.08 in the home run model. He is not the home run pick of the day. Mike Trout, 6,000, 4,400, 10 home runs on the board, and 11.77 in the home run model. 23.5% barrel rate on the season. A 454 xWOB under his 414 actual. Mike Trout, fully back, fully healthy, stealing bases. He's got 5 stolen bases on the season. Somebody slow down Mike Trout. Actually, don't let him surge. Love it. Not the home run pick of the day. Nolan Chaniel, decent piece of on base. That's the ideal spot in the lineup for him, hitting third. Reset the table for Jorge Soler, who's a tremendous bat with a 10.01 in the home run model. He's hit 7 long balls already this season, carrying a 343 weighted on base, but a 319 expected underneath it. Soler, not the most consistent guy in the world, but just the ability to drive the ball for a very fair price on both sides in the outfield. Maybe a little elevated at 35 on FanDuel. Excellent price at 37 on DraftKings. Also, not the home run pick of the day. The bottom of the lineup, you get Joan Moncada, you get Vaughn Grissom, Sebastian Riviero, Josh Lowe, mix and match pieces all with a little bit of talent. Lowe has 4 home runs, but a 154, 204, 297 slash line that reveals his inconsistency. Joan Moncada's driven the ball pretty effectively this season, has 3 home runs, but otherwise an empty slash line. The results haven't been there, but 9.4% barrel, 41.5% hard hit. Not bad. Definitely playable for the switch hitter at a cheap third base. And then we get to the man in the middle. Mr. Joe Adell, 4,000, 2,800, 4 home runs on the board, a successful 269, 305, 366 slash line that's just doing different things than we're typically looking for Joe Adell to do. The lack of barrels down by 12 percentage points is definitely concerning year over year, but it's not because he's swinging and missing like crazy. In fact, he's cut his strikeout rate by 5 percentage points. The walk rate's also fallen. It's been part of the decline in on base, the decline in stolen bases. But this is a guy who had a 17.2% barrel last season. Hit 39 home runs, 37 home runs in 573 chances last year. If he gotten 600, he would have hit 39, might have gotten to 40. Joe Adell is a major, major talent for home run upside. And Joe Adell is your home run pick of the day at 4,000, at 2,800. Love the upside against Eric Fede, who's just going to allow him to make contact. Angels bats, White Sox bats, game stack. And then like way down the bottom of the list is probably Fede slightly over Aldieri, just for the maybe additional strikeout upside, but I don't really like either one of these starters at all. Actually, click on the next one down. Would help. There we go. Michael Knack calling for the Southside Samurai, Munetaka Murakami, or Murakawa. Maybe they signed a new guy. Murakami. Love that call. Kid is a beast. Everything we've seen from Munetaka Murakami right now is real. We've talked about that through the beginning of the season. Entirely real. He did this for 8 straight seasons in the second best league in the world over in NPB. It's absolute insanity, honestly, that he only got a 2-year deal. Bad move by the White Sox. Great for them that they have him right now. You know, honestly, I hope they extend him. We can't have everybody get traded to the Dodgers, the Yankees, and so on. I really thought going into last offseason that he was going to be a New York Yankee. Really did think they were going to take the plunge on that one. Kind of regretting it now. 385 implied total on the Braves side, going up against George Kirby in one of the better pitcher parks in baseball. Love the upside for Curbs. He's been kind of bouncing his way through the beginning of the season, working in a 3.0 ERA perfectly fine, but an elevated 3.83 xFIP, 3.86 SIERA. Strikeouts down a little bit, 19.1%. He was mid-20s last year. Walks still pretty low, but against the elevated strikeout rate, it doesn't work quite the same way. I like Kirby to figure it all out, though. He's been excellent at limiting premium contact, excellent at limiting launch angle, upside for home runs. Just takes that away from a lot of teams. He'll find the strikeout stuff again. I really like him to limit walks, find strikeouts over his next handful of starts, and by the end of May, beginning mid-June, look a lot like George Kirby that we know from the last couple seasons. Good spot to get started too. As good as they've been, these Braves are currently this version of the lineup anyway that's projected striking out at a 26.8% rate. That's elevated by who? Sean Murphy. Got to take Murph out of that mix for the moment. The rest of those guys, 21.8. That's more like it. But there is a little bit more strikeout. There were nearly 23 last year, 22.6 the year before for the guys that were in the league. Murph can certainly add to that. 31.2 last year, 25.7 the year before. It's a major power bat coming back to this lineup, but he's no Ronald Acuna in really anything. So plenty of strikeout for Kirby to go find. Something like a 1-4 would not be surprising at all for tonight and get back to his expected levels. On the other side of this one, Bryce Elder, rather. It's Drake Baldwin, because I was looking at the top of their lineup as I was speaking. 8,500 is cheap on DraftKings, playable on DraftKings. But again, he's just kind of stuck in as one of the few middle type prices. And that's a little more than I would want to pay for Elder. 10-1 on FanDuel, I think, is outrageous. 20.9% strikeout is not special. 7.6% walk. He's pitched to a 1.88 ERA, fine, but he's got a 4 xFIP and SIERA. He's just been pitching over his head. We know that Bryce Elder in the long term is not that good. 5.30 ERA, 4.04 xFIP, 4.29 SIERA last year, sub 20% strikeout. That's similar to where he is this year. 7.5% walk, same. I mean, everything here is the same except for the ERA. This is happenstance. A lot of that's out of his control. So this is not a real number. ERA has never been real. He's a 4-run pitcher. Always has been. 6.52 ERA, that also wasn't real in these 10 starts. 3.95 xFIP is right in line with these numbers. 4-run pitcher with plenty of downside against the Mariners team that maybe, slowly, kind of starting to find it come around. Some of the bats have been going all season, like our guy Luke Raley, who homered yesterday. Dom Canzone doesn't look like he made the lineup today, but he would be another candidate for that. There's plenty of talent in the Mariners. 4.24 implied total. I think they're kind of interesting today. I think Elder on FanDuel especially, way overpriced. If you're going to the Braves, Baldwin in the leadoff role, not a bad option. Holding it down with a 392 on base so far has been tremendous. 9 home runs, just immediately one of the best catcher bats in baseball. 4,300, 3,400 for Ozzie Albies, who has continued to find success. 8 home runs, a 331, 381, 561 slash line. The xWOBA has been flying up the board. It's at 326 now. That was the point of concern originally. If you remember, I said it yesterday. He had been hovering at like a 300 xWOBA. We've gained significant ground, and he's above average in that department. It's obviously not 407, what his actual WOBA is so far. A long way to come down, too. But at least he's been above average in that department. Matty Olson at 5,045 has only been one of the best hitters in baseball this year. 12 home runs, a monster slash line, a 182 WRC plus. Major source of left-handed power to throw at Kirby here. The Braves are still good enough, even with no Acuna, to use as a contrarian team here against Curbs as well. I just don't love the ballpark for that, but it's a very good lineup. Mauricio Dubon, more mix and matchy. Still priced like it, though, in a decent start. 31.29. Multi-position on FanDuel. 2 home runs on the board, 258, 319, 403 slash line. Kind of miscast if he's hitting cleanup. That's what surprised me there. Would probably be much better off in the 3 spot with Olson hitting cleanup, or Olson. Honestly, it should be Olson 2. I don't want to have to rethink this entire Braves lineup. This shouldn't be what they do, suffice to say. Move Riley into the cleanup spot, actually. That would be the easiest thing to do. 4,200 for Austin Riley, 3,000 for Austin Riley, 9.08 in the home run model. He's got 5 on the board, starting to surge. We're putting the pieces back together. 9.2% barrel, 46.9% hard hit. Needs to go a long way to get back to his typical barrel rates, but at least he's been better over the last 2 weeks than his terrible, terrible start to the season. Had a down year last year and the year before for power output. I'm really interested to see where he finishes this year. Yastrzemski, Eli White, Jorge Mateo going down the projected lineup here. Mix and match pieces. Mateo gives you a little bit of upside for 12 home run type power in a full season, but a bunch of stolen bases, the ability to get on, create some havoc out there. Right now, he's barreled a bunch of balls in the small sample. That won't hold. He has hit 2 home runs in 47 chances. He'll probably have 3 home runs when he gets to 147 chances. But he's playable, and he wraps around pretty effectively at shortstop. And then Murph, if he's in the lineup, 3,300, 2,800. A thumper at the catcher spot, 6.75 in the home run model. He hit 16 in a down year last year in 337 chances, just 10 in 261 chances the year before that, 21 in 438 the year before that one. A lot of power upside from Murphy, a lot of upside for Barrels, 13.2% last year, 9.6, 15.8 the 2 years before that, but plenty of Ks as well. Go to the Mariners. J.P. Crawford's been on fire. 3 home runs, a 367 on base. Don't care about the 208 average. 331 WOBA with a 378 xWOBA, 113 WRC plus. Drawing his walks, not striking out, putting decent bat on ball. It's a very playable shortstop with a team that's got a 4.24 total and some great support from bats behind him. He's cheap to start things off, and if nothing else, he's always been good at getting on base. So he'll set the table for Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, and the guys that follow. Raleigh at 51, 31, 7 home runs. Otherwise, really poor start to the season. Does have the 13.6% barrel. That's down hard from last year and the year before, but at least it's a elevated barrel rate that we can kind of cling to. The frequency, though, 30.7% hard hit rate, wildly uncharacteristic. Ignoring last year, the year before, he was at 48.1. Year before that, 40.7. So we're just dealing with some working out the kinks. I think he puts it all back together just fine. The next 150 plate appearance is going to be a lot better than the first 150. Julio at 45, at 29, has just gotten stupid cheap. He gets off to a bad start every season. 4 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 268, 338, 401. I would argue that this is a better start than he's gotten out to in the last couple seasons. So maybe the surge starts earlier this year. That's still not a bad player, better than just another outfielder for just another outfielder type prices. Definitely a high priority option if you're going to the Mariners. Josh Naylor's been poor to start the season. We know he's a lot better for home runs, stolen bases, filling categories than he's been this year. He's also very cheap now, 37.28. These Mariners are super affordable going up against a gettable pitcher like Bryce Elder. Randy Arozarena carrying the team at a 130 WRC plus. 3 home runs, 8 steals, excellent slash line. On base all the time. The barrels and the hard hits are actually way down for Arozarena, but you wouldn't notice it with the output. He's been tremendous. 332 xWOBA under the 356 actual does reveal a little bit of that, but even if he came down to the xWOBA, he'd still be well above average. Luke Raley, monster source of barrels, 20%, 52.7% hard hits across 99 plate appearances, 6 home runs on the board, has the ability to run out there a little bit as well. Still real cheap at 35.27, has first base eligibility, which mixes in really nicely to get to a cheaper first baseman on this team, although it's only $100 now between him and Josh Naylor. Cole Young, mix and match piece in the infield. Mitch Garver, a little bit of power upside from the catcher. 2,200 is nice and cheap on DraftKings. Hasn't hit a homer in 53 plate appearances, but has a 53.6% hard hit rate, walking in an 18.9 in that small sample. Last year, 9 home runs in 290 chances. Not a great season for power output. The year before, 15 in 430. Sub Mendoza pretty hard, sub 300 on base that year. You're not looking for him to be on base 3 times. You're looking for the one big knock. He's playable at that cheap catcher price. On FanDuel, just a lot less of a priority. 4.50 in the home run model is one of the standout numbers from the bottom, though. Leo Rivas, just kind of a mix and match guy here for defense. George Kirby, we're rolling those Mariners pitchers dice again against this Braves team. George Kirby, Mariners bats, Braves bats against Kirby, then Bryce Elder on DraftKings, and then and only then Bryce Elder on FanDuel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as we round into the home stretch here. Speaking of home stretch, how about that Kentucky Derby? You guys watch that? It was not on my radar at all. I used to be much more into horse racing, at least as like a better. I would be aware of when at least the major races were. We'd go to the track a few times a year. It's just kind of fallen off. But I was flipping channels just as I was sitting here doing projections on Saturday, and I was like, "Oh shit, Kentucky Derby's on! Awesome!" And then it turned into one of the best finishes I've ever seen for a horse race. That was an absurd surge coming from behind, dead last down the home stretch to take the Kentucky Derby. That was sick. Two of those guys are Elmer Rodriguez's cousins, the winner and the second place jockey. They're brothers and they're his cousins. Kind of cool. They'll probably be in the stands in the Bronx tonight. Bubba Chandler on the bump for the Pirates. Interesting young starter. Mentioned last time, I think the last time he pitched last week was the first time we got to talk about him all season. Kick and bring it around 100 miles an hour. Only a 20.8% strikeout, some issues with the walk so far, 4.97 ERA, 5.28 xFIP, 5.28 Sierra. Was finding plenty of success in the minors. The promotion entirely justified. He should be here right now. You can see that in his 104 rating by Stuff Plus. The stuff is above average major league stuff right now with three of his primary pitches above a 110, 114, 110, 110 on three of his offerings. Tremendous. Above average location and pitching plus. He is very good. He just needs the results to kind of follow the talent. Not necessarily going to happen for him against the D-backs here in a hitter-friendly park. 4.83 implied total for them. Obviously screaming, stay away, don't go here. 73 on FanDuel. I'm a little bit skeptical. 72 on DraftKings. I think I'm a buyer on the talent. Lightly so. I don't think he's a priority. But if I'm getting to a bunch of spread in that $7,000 range at my SP2 on DraftKings, I think the strikeout upside alone is probably worth dabbling with. The Diamondbacks aren't problematic for it, but on the right day, he's going to find his punch-outs. 6 strikeouts, gave up 3 earned runs, did walk 4 over 5 innings against the Cards the last time out. 3 earned runs on 3 hits. Had a problematic day against Texas before that. 6 earned runs on 7 hits, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, and 2 home runs allowed. But was great against the Rays. 1 earned run on 3 hits over 6 innings. Only struck out 3 and walked 1, but that's a very good start. We just get some of those different pieces all in one spot today. It was upside. And again, this Diamondbacks lineup, success though they may find, it's about these 3 guys. What's really threatening about Gabriel Moreno, Adrian Del Castillo, Lourdes Gurriel, Ildemaro Vargas? They're fun names to say. Nolan Arenado, Alec Thomas. That is a nothing lineup. It's a 3-man lineup. It's an exaggerated Vegas total that is probably drawing a lot from the ballpark. On the Pirates side, a 4.26 implied going up against old Erod. Erod coming in with a 15.4 strikeout rate, 11.2% walk rate, 3.03 ERA, but a 4.84 xFIP. He's all over the board. We talked about him a couple starts back where he was just kind of in the rocking chair and finding some success for run limitation, but a lot showing under the surface that said it wouldn't last, including the entire history of this pitcher. And he's not the guy who's going to spike big strikeout days anymore, at least not so far for what he's trying to do out there. Stuff has been diminished. It's 11 points below average by Stuff Plus. He's not allowing a lot of launch, probably not going to allow a ton of home runs through the year, so maybe not entirely vulnerable. Maybe the lefty-lefty checks down O'Neal Cruz. We don't get Brandon Lau in the lineup. But I still like the upside for the Pirates. There's guys in this lineup that can scratch out hits. There's still power. We get to the bullpen. Plenty of upside for Pittsburgh. If we're looking in that direction, let's see if we got the confirmed lineup. This will be an important one to talk about, actually. If it's this version, I'm not a huge Jake Mangum fan, as you guys probably remember from last year. He's doing similar things to start this season, though. Getting on base regularly, 346 on base is pretty good. 271, 346, 83 WRC plus with that, though. 5 stolen bases, a little bit of bonus scoring, but you're really just looking at a correlated scoring piece there. And again, he is not a up-and-comer. He's a 31-year-old quad A type player. Brian Reynolds at 45-32 doesn't look like we got the confirmed lineup. That's been their best player over time. Okay start to his year. A little bit better than he was last year, certainly for on base, getting on at a 404 clip. 373 WOBA is interesting. 355 X-WOBA supporting that, a 135 WRC plus. Has been driving the ball. Only medium success so far for power, 4 home runs on the board, but typically is, 25-ish home run hitter in a good year. Nick Gonzalez found a ton of success so far via BABIP and exclusively via BABIP. 328, 381, 371, no home runs, 2 steals. 344 matching weighted on base and expected, though. Not really driving the ball, just putting it in play. Getting to first base, doesn't really strike out, doesn't draw that many walks. So a lot of balls in play, finding his success at getting to first base before the baseball does, but that could go away very quickly. So not a reliable guy, but a playable piece because he's not expensive. He just fits in at third base, second base on FanDuel. Marcell Ozuna, I was expecting more. 3 home runs and 121 chances. Maybe he turns it on, but there's not a lot of good indicators on the board. substandard barrel and hard hit rate that are down significantly from who he's been over time, elevated strikeouts, reduced walk. It's problematic. 257 WOBA, 309X, 56 WRC plus. One good piece of contact, though, against this pitcher. Marcell Ozuna can still drive the ball. He wouldn't be off my board if I'm building with Pirates. In fact, he probably gets into the first lineup I build with them. But it's been a little bit difficult to see. Jared Triolo, mix and match guy. Billy Cook, Joey Bart, mix and match pieces at their respective positions. And then two major sources of upside down lineup in this projected. Connor Griffin at 41-29, pair of home runs, 7 stolen bases, 114 pretty good plate appearances, and he's only going to go up from here. So just get him while he's still cheap. 41 now, 29 now on FanDuel. He will be 45 to 4,800 in the next 2 weeks and 5,000 and above probably at the halfway point of the season at worst. 2,900 is going to go up on FanDuel as well. Get to that player while you can. O'Neal Cruz appropriately priced at massive levels, 9 home runs, 11 steals. Major breakout season underway for O'Neal Cruz. Even with this lefty on the mound, I have no issues using O'Neal Cruz. Once they chase Erod, all bets are off, but I like his chances for success even in a same-headed matchup against this pitcher. On the D-back side, the 3 guys at the top are obvious. Again, it's a 3-man lineup. You do get a very cheap Geraldo Perdomo to lead off at 3,000. He's been bad to start the season, but we know he's way better than that. And one of the most important pieces for him is that on-base skill. 352 on base right now, carrying a 338 WOBA, 323 expected. 14.5% walk rate against a nothing strikeout rate. He's just lost a little bit of premium contact, but he can get it back in just a handful of batted ball events. So no issues with Perdomo. The price is just down. Take advantage. 5,300 for Ketel Marte on DraftKings is fair to cheap. 2,900 is stupid on FanDuel. Going back to the person who asked about Jazz versus Ketel Marte, they're both inexpensive at that same level. So I do still stick with that Jazz answer. But, I mean, that is a great, great price for Ketel Marte. So if you're just one-offing that spot, there's no issue going there. 5 home runs on the board, an otherwise poor start to his season, but a great player who's been the best second baseman in baseball for a couple seasons running now. 359 xWOB under that ugly 283 actual. Everything's going to climb back up to normal levels for Ketel Marte. Corbin Carroll, excellent option. 4 home runs, 4 steals, a 273, 372, 518 slash line. He's been delivering. I continue to think that the overall power output probably ends up down for the year. He has hit the 4 home runs. It's fine. But I don't know that he gets to 25, certainly 30 is in question. He hit 31 last year, stole 32 bases, had the hamate bone injury that typically saps power. I've talked about this a bunch of times this year. He's gotten away with it with a handful of home runs, 12% barrel. That hard hit rate at 41.3 is reminiscent of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Corbin Carroll, not the guy who had a 49.9 last year. The barrels are down slightly, and that could change in a hurry. I think he's appropriately priced because he can still double, triple to his heart's content. He's still got tons of ability to fill stats for DFS. But those home runs might not come back this year. Might see him at like 22 at season's end, somewhere around there. Still a great player, though. Gabriel Moreno's cheap, 32-26, playable catcher, lackluster slash line, 1 home run on the board and 54 chances. More ability than that, good ability to drive the ball. He's actually made pretty good contact so far this year, given the barrel and the hard hit rate, just not finding the success for it. But that's the kind of guy we want to roster ahead of the curve, not wait for him to start finding the success paying off the contact that he's making. So that's a go-to option if you're stacking this team, particularly where you need the position. And he's 500 less than Adrian Del Castillo. You get the lefty advantage from Del Castillo. He's got 3 home runs on the board, 222, 258, 413. Nothing special about the slash line. I continue to believe that Gabriel Moreno is probably the better talent between the two, and he's certainly hitting the ball better. So take the cheaper option if you're on DK. Neither guy is super high priority on FanDuel, but within Diamondback stacks, given the positioning in the lineup, one or the other probably makes it in. Lourdes Gurriel, just another outfielder right now. The talent level's more than that, but it's been a minute. 17.4% strikeout is fine, but it's a little elevated from last year. 6.5% walk. Just not driving the ball at all right now. Not driving the ball for him and not driving the ball at all. Nolan Arenado has found some success in spite of everything with that broken swing, which I continue to believe is still just illusory success right now. 330 WOBA, but a 304X. 8.1% barrel. 26.7% hard hit. He's caught up with a few balls. A couple good swings that he's gotten off. Small sample, it looks okay at 275, 310, 440 with 5 home runs. Another few hundred plate appearances, this is not going to look good. I continue to believe that he's just broken. Alec Thomas, 29, just another outfielder. And then Ildemaro Vargas, the poster boy for none of this is real. 4,400 is too expensive, and he only plays first base, which is problematic on DraftKings. At least you get him at 4 positions on FanDuel, but in no way should you ever pay $4,000 for Ildemaro Vargas. I wouldn't pay that for games that we already had, knowing what he was going to do. I mean, maybe a couple exceptions. He's been great. 382, 406, 657. You can't argue with it. 6 home runs on the board. Can't argue with it. Well, you can argue with it for sure because he's not that guy. You can't argue with what he's done. The argument is that it's not going to continue. This is a guy who's been in the league for 10 years. He hit 3 home runs in 121 plate appearances all of last year. He hit 1 home run in 303 plate appearances all of the year before and had a 72 WRC plus, a .070 ISO, slugged 316 that year. Year before that, 4 home runs in 286 chances, 111 ISO, slugged 363, 81 WRC plus, and so on and so on and so on. This is a slap hitter, and he's not even really good at that. Do not pay that FanDuel price for Ildemaro Vargas. Don't put him at first base on DraftKings either. It's just an overperformance. It's just small sample. It doesn't mean anything. I got to go with the total and go. Actually, did I on the stacks board? I don't think I did. No, Pirates. Yeah, Pirates are actually pretty highly ranked. 4th, 3rd on FanDuel, 3rd, 2nd on DraftKings, 8th by Vegas total, but it's all packed in pretty tightly between, like 6th and like 12th. 12th by home run rating, but plenty of upside for the Pirates with a little boost from the ballpark, the pitcher on the mound. So Pirates, D-backs, another one where we're kind of flying in the face of Las Vegas. But then I would go slightly, I guess, Erod for cheap over Bubba Chandler for cheap. Even that, I'm not entirely sure, and I don't think we really want that much of either of them. Then we round things out with the Pods and the Giants once again. Milwaukee, St. Louis postponed. There you go. All right, so scratch that somewhat frisky Milwaukee stack. You lose a decent piece on DraftKings with that. They were 4th ranked by projection just with all the base hit and on-base ability against Palante there. But it also takes kind of a wrinkle with those two teams off the board for us, too. I think it makes it a little bit more straight line because, like, the Cards were pulling decent power upside against Sproat, but they didn't rank out great. I'm not unhappy that game scratched. Ooh, 535. I got to get going. All right, last game up. Walker Buehler on the bump. I don't think we're going that way. 21.1% strikeout, 10.5% walk. The best days of Walker Buehler are well in the past now. 6,000. It's just a value dart, and you're really only throwing it at the price tag, even with the Giants struggling, even in a pitcher's park. It's not a great bet. 7,100 on FanDuel, you're probably not getting your quality start. It works a lot better on DK as a value bin SP2, but even there, I don't really like the upside. And the Giants are just better than they've been. This team is better. Rafi Devers is better. Willy Adames is better than they've been. Bryce Eldridge should be good. Going the other way, Logan Webb against the Pods. Love the upside. 20.2% strikeout down from last year. 4.30 ERA is up, but a 3.45 xFIP, 3.70 Sierra. Just some bumpy results still from one of the early starts. Otherwise, keeping the ball down like usual, limiting home runs like usual. Allows a little bit of premium contact, but it's on a very low trajectory that doesn't really result in big scoring events. As long as he puts the strikeouts back together, at least to a 22 kind of a rate. Maybe he doesn't get to the near 26% rate that he was last year. Brings the walks back down, which is within expectation. I think we're perfectly fine. He's just a little cheap. 8,700 totally works. 9,200 definitely as well. 360 implied total for the Padres that are also kind of just an up and down team, especially when Fernando Tatis isn't hitting for any power. I don't mind this spot for Logan Webb. I think he's a little underappreciated on this one. Going to the Pods, they're good enough to be contrarian here, but what Webb takes away is the home run upside. So it takes a lot of the big-time DFS scoring event off the board, and it just comes down to sequencing. This team's not bad at sequencing, creating runs, but if I'm taking the big shot away, I don't love it. Ramon Laureano at 42.31, better than the average outfielder, 238, 301, 426. Nothing special about the slash line, but the contact's been good and in line with last year. 5 home runs, 4 steals. The output for counting stats has also been in line with last year so far. The big concern is the lack of home runs for Tatis, We've talked about how he's just crushing everything but going the other way. 13% barrel, 60.9% hard hit. As soon as he starts pulling the ball again, the home runs will come off of that contact. 352 xWOB under a 284 actual. Jackson Merrill, 47, 3,000, affordable, but kind of slow starting. 220, 283, 362. Does have 4 homers and 6 steals. At least the counting stats are there, as is the premium contact. Not quite where it was last year in terms of the barrels, but the hard hits are right there. I think we see him continue to figure it out, get where he needs to be. Playable piece at worst. One of the reasons to go to the Padres at worst. Manny Machado, 47, 31, 5 home runs on the board, 221, 328, 389. Everything slowly floating up to usual Manny Machado levels. He'll be just fine. He remains a little bit affordable. All these red prices, by the way, don't be misled by the coloring. That's just the conditional formatting, just reacting to everybody being 3,100 or below. So they're actually pretty cheap. Same deal on DraftKings, nobody above 5,000. So don't overreact to the conditional formatting the way it is on that set of guys. Xander Bogaerts, 4,000, 3,100, 5 homers, 4 steals, off to a great start, over 137, getting on base like crazy, helping create runs, 116 WRC plus, leads the top 6 hitters anyway. You get down to Miguel Andujar at 130, and then 54 plate appearances of Luis Campusano at a 171. A couple outliers down there. Andujar does hit for a little bit of average, kind of an interesting bat, not a big-time home run hitter, but a solid line drives guy that fits into multiple positions at a fair price. I like him better than Campusano. I like him better than this version of Jake Cronenworth, who's not hitting for average, not getting on base, not finding a lot of success, but is a lot better than these 114 plate appearances. And then Gavin Sheets, I kind of breezed past at first base, 3,200, pretty cheap, 2,700 also cheap. 4 home runs, 215, 263, 441, not paying the bills with the front end of the slash line, but a 226 ISO, driving the ball effectively, 10% barrel, 44.3% hard hit, just a 96 WRC plus, more reflective of the bad average, the bad on base. Same thing with the WOBA, the ex-WOBA. But the power from the left side is real, and it's significant. If you're just home run hunting against Logan Webb, not an ideal pitcher to do that against, but Gavin Sheets would be a part of that conversation. You can see the Logan Webb of it in just a 2.88. Nobody above a 5. Nobody even at 5. Giants bats, I do think much more playable in this one. If you're decidedly going to the late night hammer, just under a 4-run total is not great, but this team's been underperforming their talent. They're facing a nothing starter on the mound. Every reason to think that the Giants plant a flag here and say, this far down the mountain and no further, and turn things around. Young-Hoo Lee at 32-27 if he's leading off. Solid source of line drives, good on base. Light as far as the premium contact goes, but doesn't really strike out, puts plenty of balls in play, should set the table. Casey Schmidt's not as good as his 308, 359, 542, but he's been excellent over those plate appearances. You're paying not that much, 34, 31, not that much tax on either site. 4 positions on FanDuel is a lot better than sticking him at first base on DraftKings, though. That leaves something to be desired, especially with Rafi Devers filling first base and Bryce Eldridge filling first base. Kind of sucks the way they position those guys. Luis Ledai is at 36-28. Solid in terms of the batting average, 316, 340, 398. Probably going to compete for a batting title. Doesn't do much else. Just gets, maybe to first base via BABIP to set the table for other guys. Elliot Ramos, 3,000, 2,700. 3 home runs, not finding success to match the barrel and hard hit rates that he's got so far. We talked about this yesterday. I like those numbers to, as soon as he normalizes the strikeouts back down even a little bit, just the additional pieces of contact, the additional opportunities to make contact should feed the upside for power, given the contact that he's making when he's able to. Rafi Devers isn't finding the contact, striking out too much, not walking enough. Everything is just out of sorts right now. He's going to figure it out. He's way too good. 3,900 is cheap. 2,600 is even cheaper. 9.10 in the home run model. Every reason to consider Rafi Devers today. Willie Adames at 33-27, also currently broken, but will figure it out. We saw a slow start from Willie last year, and he ended the season in fantastic style. Got himself to 30 home runs and 12 stolen bases. 225, 318, 421 slash line. Then we're probably going to see something similar, but 30 home runs, 12 steals, scored 94 runs, drove in 87. I mean, those are your counting stats for fantasy. Not overly predictive when it comes to the, not at all predictive when it comes to the runs and the RBIs. Nothing that he can control there, really. But those were major fantasy counting stats that did pay off last year. So you continue to go to Willie. Bryce Eldridge, their top prospect, getting a shot here. Dead min price in the outfield on FanDuel. Love that. 26, a decision point on DraftKings with the 3 first basemen. That sucks. We talked about Eldridge yesterday. A little bit of power upside, ability to control the zone. We'll see where it goes, but he's very affordable. Would be a part of the plans at the mid price on FanDuel if I'm going to this team. Patty Bailey, Drew Gilbert, down lineup, mix and match pieces both. Gilbert finding a little success over 55 chances, though. And that, gang, is your slate. Whew. A lot of talking. Quality Soul thinks the Giants are sneaky tonight. Yeah, I can get with that. I don't think that's a terrible call. They're gonna pay off a few times this year. I mean, it's there's too many talented bats in that lineup not to, and Buehler's shown nothing on the mound. So I don't see why we wouldn't at least consider them. It's obviously not a great situation for hitting in this ballpark or anything, but they overcome that time and again. So plenty of reasons to consider them, and I love Logan Webb on the mound. We've got some better spots than that overall, but we're losing. We lost another one in Milwaukee, St. Louis getting canceled. Again, we do have our top end pitching, but kind of a lack of a middle board today. Bryce Elder, probably overpriced at 85, definitely overpriced at 10. Any one of these guys, easy to go to. Total faith in all of those guys in these matchups for those prices. In that group, two of those guys will have great days. Two of those guys will have underwhelming days. One of them would be either really disappointing or a slate winner. That's why they play the games. And then we get to the, just bargain bin the rest of the way down after Bryce Elder. Elmer, 64 on FanDuel, I like. 75 on DraftKings just makes him another guy. He's at least the discount of the day on FanDuel. This Erod, meh. Jameson Tyon, meh. I think I'm targeting Cincinnati bats on the other side with the way they look on our board. Bubba, meh. A lot of talent. Haven't put it together. Same thing with Sproat. Well, that one's off the table. Kolek, not a lot of upside for strikeout. Plenty of upside for the Guardians to do their thing. It's a really light pitching board if you're not going to some combination of those guys. And it's tough to put those guys together on DK and still get to premium bats. Stuff 1243 H2G says St. Louis postponed confirmed. I was just going by what Clint Wood said in the chat. Trustworthy guy. So I would be surprised if Clint Wood was making up stories. I'll confirm it on the site, though, when I go update projections in a minute. Stuff says, long-time listener, just under a new name. Glad to see you're still at it. Yeah, buddy. Glad to see you're still here. Appreciate you. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already on the way out the door here. End of the show. Joe Adele, your home run pick of the day. Like the upside for the Angels. Multiple guys above the magic number. Love the idea of game stacking that White Sox LA game, though. Those teams fit together quite nicely. On FanDuel especially. You want the two shortstop ability. Less so on DK, but I still like the idea. And that, I think, gives us room for the premium pitching, too. So definitely interested in that spot. With that in mind, you guys, let me go update lineups. I got to knock out the two-game NBA slate, the NHL slate. It doesn't start till 8 o'clock, and it's just one game, but those will be up on rotoscouts.com, as will all the updated projections in the next couple of minutes. Give that a look. Everything's under $1 a day. You access every single piece of content that hits that website every single day for under $1 a day. Weekly, monthly, quarterly plans available. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter or in the Discord, which is linked down there. Don't need to be a subscriber or pay us anything to join the Discord. Just come hang out. And, go get them, gang. See you tomorrow.